Independence Day, Congress Member of Parliament Rahul Gandhi and other leaders of the party reached the Gandhi Smriti and paid tribute to Mahatma Gandhi as part of the Congress Party's Azadi Gaurav Yatra on Independence Day. Congress leaders took a pledge at the Gandhi Smriti to serve the country as members of the party and work towards the unity of the nation on Independence Day. Marking the 75th year of independence, the Indian Air Force extended greetings to the country. The Air Force shared videos of our Jawans' glory. On the occasion of the 15th of August, special arrangements were made at the Ogharnath Mandir in Meerut. As part of the celebration, special prayers were also offered. As India celebrates its 76th Independence Day, Union Home Minister Amrit Kaal urged countrymen to do their utmost to make India a world leader by the centenary anniversary celebrations of our independence. For the first time now in India's history, a Made in India 80 AGS howitzer was used as part of the 21-gun salute on the 76th Independence Day at the Red Fort in Delhi.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
There will have to be bilateral agreement with whoever we want. There's too much of politics involved for there to be a regional trade agreement in South Asia.
We are aware of reports of a proposed visit by this vessel Hambantota port in August. Let me just say the government carefully monitors any development having a bearing on India's security.
75 on this August day, and I want to congratulate all of us citizens. In the initial years of our independence, there were many in the West that predicted we wouldn't make it this far as a viable, thriving democracy. In fact, when Prime Minister Nehru died, many write-ups appeared in the international press. Some were replicated here in India that claimed that India would soon descend into anarchy, drawn asunder by its many contradictions. Many examples were taken, especially of our neighbors. In fact, at that time, they had every reason to believe this pessimistic outlook. The West had sown the seeds of our destruction after all. They left India poor, stripped of its assets. They divided our motherland and deliberately alienated us from our Indic values, which they said were barbaric, primitive, regressive, in need of overhaul, of modernization. Well, the West, in the form of the British and other colonialists, may have left India in 1947 for good. And remember, it wasn't until the 60s that we got complete independence, because there were, of course, pockets where the West lingered on. But viewers, sadly, India's ruling elite, trained and educated by Western colonizers to perpetuate their ideas and ideals undermined our sense of nationhood. India may have limped along had it not been for a subaltern pushback that we are witnessing over the last three and a half, 4 decades. Today, viewers, we stand proud, we stand tall, we stand fearless. Not only have we proved the naysayers wrong, but we have thrived. There is so much statistical evidence. Any objective analysis of the data will tell you that India is poised for global leadership. The next 25 years, when India will celebrate its 100th birthday, look extraordinarily promising. Of course, there are caveats. We need to do the right things at the right time. In fact, that was really the thrust of the Prime Minister's address from the ramparts of the ageless Red Fort. The Prime Minister today listed 5 key objectives, or Panch Pran, or Pran. Now, viewers, listen in to what the Prime Minister says we must keep in mind over the next 25 years. This is a reordering of some of the values that we gave ourselves in 1947. Listen to this.
जब मैं पंच प्राण की बात करता हूं तो पहला प्राण अब देश बड़े संकल्प लेकर के ही चलेगा। बहुत बड़े संकल्प लेकर के चलना होगा, और वो बड़ा संकल्प है विकसित भारत। अब उससे कुछ कम नहीं होना चाहिए। बड़ा संकल्प। दूसरा प्राण है किसी भी कोने में हमारे मन के भीतर, हमारे आदतों के भीतर गुलामी का एक भी अंश अगर भी अभी भी है तो उसको किसी भी हालत में बचने नहीं देना। अब 100% सैकड़ों साल की गुलामी ने जहां हमें झुकड़ कर रखा है, हमारे मनोभाव को बांध करके रखा हुआ है, हमारी सोच में विकृतियां पैदा करके रखी है, हमें गुलामी की छोटी चीज भी कहीं नजर आती है, हमारे भीतर नजर आती है, हमारे आसपास नजर आती है, हमें उससे मुक्ति पानी ही होगी। ये हमारा दूसरी प्राण शक्ति है। तीसरी प्राण शक्ति, हमें हमारी विरासत पर गर्व होना चाहिए। हमारी विरासत के प्रति, क्योंकि यही विरासत है जिसने कभी भारत को स्वर्णिम काल दिया था, और यही विरासत है जो समय को अनुकूल परिवर्तन करने की आदत रखती है। यही विरासत है जो काल बाह्य छोड़ती रही है, नित्य नूतन स्वीकारती रही है, और इसलिए इस विरासत के प्रति हमें गर्व होना चाहिए। चौथा प्राण, वो भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है, और वो है एकता और एकजुटता। 130 करोड़ देशवासियों में एकता, न कोई अपना न कोई पराया। एकता की ताकत एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के सपनों के लिए हमारा चौथा प्राण है। और पांचवा प्राण है नागरिकों का कर्तव्य। नागरिकों का कर्तव्य, जिसमें प्रधानमंत्री भी बाहर नहीं होता है, मुख्यमंत्री भी बाहर नहीं होता है, वो भी नागरिक है। नागरिकों का कर्तव्य, यह हमारे आने वाली 25 साल के सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी प्राण शक्ति है।
But within hours of the Prime Minister urging us to take the pledges that he outlined, the 5 pledges, the negativists were back, undermining the Prime Minister's message and trying to weaken our collective resolve. Viewers, many of you have begun to excavate our virasat, our heritage. You have begun to tell us the stories about our heritage that we were taught to reject in favor of some progressive Western ideals. Some of them sit very uncomfortably atop our entire institutional structure. But viewers, the most basic ideals are of tolerance, unity, oneness. These are universal values. And our great heritage teaches us to respect inherently these values. Yet, viewers, there are some who constantly fear-monger about India becoming some intolerant Hindu Rashtra, about Hindus suddenly turning into Rakshasas with chotis who will destroy the idea, the civilizational idea of India. Listen to some of them. They're back today, viewers, with a bang. Listen.
भारत में अगर सबसे ज्यादा किसी की बेइज्जती की जाती है तो मुसलमानों की। भारत में अगर सबसे ज्यादा कोई गैर महफूज है तो मुसलमान है। भारत में अगर सबसे ज्यादा किसी को नजरअंदाज कर दिया जाता है तो मुसलमान है।
सियासी इख्तलाफात हो सकते हैं, मगर याद रखो, अगर मजहबी इख्तलाफात की चिंगारी लग जाएगी, जो लोग लगा रहे हैं, तो याद रखो इससे मुल्क को नुकसान होगा। जिसके सर पे बाल नहीं होते उन्हें दुनिया की बेहतरीन टोपी पहनता हूं, उन्हें टकला नहीं दिखना बोल के, तो ये लोग वही हैं। कुछ नहीं करे क्योंकि मालूम सर साफ है, तो बेहतरीन टोपी पहन के हमको टोपी पिलाना चाह रहे। जो लोग कहते हैं, हमारे वजीर आजम ने कहा कि आरएसएस मेरा फाउंडेशन है। आपका आरएसएस फाउंडेशन है तो क्या आरएसएस भारत के संविधान के खिलाफ नहीं थी 1950 में? क्या गोलवालकर ने और ऑर्गेनाइजर मैगजीन में नहीं छपा कि हमको मनुस्मृति चाहिए, अंबेडकर का संविधान नहीं चाहिए? हमको मत सिखाओ आप, हमको सिखाने की जरूरत नहीं है भारत से मोहब्बत।
Viewers, you've heard the negativists. Now we put a question out today via polling agency PMark to all of you, viewers, to a large number of you. And we asked you a simple question. Is India becoming a Hindu Rashtra? The time has come, viewers, to ask this question, because there are many who are floating this big bogey. 47%, almost half of you say no. 21% say can't say because, this is a ridiculous question. Only 30% say yes, viewers. Overwhelming majority says no. There you have it. The bogey is being called out. So why is this propaganda constantly being pushed our way? Let's ask this basic question of those who speak, for example, for the Congress party. Danish Qureshi speaks for the AIMM, sympathizer of Mr. Owaisi. Let me ask these questions of them. Abbas Haider Saab, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Shahzad Poonawala, national spokesperson of the BJP. Shantanu Gupta Hota is here with us. Let's open this up. Mr. Lokesh Jindal, why are you so invested in painting Hindus as some sort of parochial bigots? Why?
Absolutely not, Rahul. I am a Hindu and 80% of the population in India is that of Hindus. Why would Congress claim Hindus to be bigots and will distance them? It absolutely makes no sense. It's a political suicide for any political party to distance out the majority population.
No, because on every issue, sir, let's look at some of the issues. UCC, you say this is a Hindu Rashtra agenda. You've seen our poll. The UCC is being supported by an overwhelming majority of Indians. Are they all invested? Sir, let me just put out the facts. Please give me 30 seconds. I have asked these questions today. I asked about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, whether this government really believes in it or it's an empty slogan for them. Again, the majority says they believe in it. We all believe in it. We are all sharing this vision. We are not some, theocracy or theocrats. You look at the other big question that we have posed on the issue of tolerance in this country. There again, overwhelming majority says we are a very tolerant people. We don't harbor any ill will against any community. Yet we are constantly being told India is becoming a Hindu Rashtra. The people want to, go after minorities, have become seconded to some or have become enthralled by some ideology. This only sort of paints all of us
Rahul,
Hindus in a poor light. That's why I'm asking you this question.
Rahul, tell me one
UCC
thing.
पे आप oppose करते हैं. It's some big Hindu national agenda. It is not, sir. It is not some Hindu nationalist agenda. Majority of Indians want it because they want equity under the law. That's all.
Yes.
Not because
Rahul,
they are Hindu fundamentalists.
Rahul,
whatever
the
that
whole
term
point
means.
is that
Yes.
debate is all about whether India is trending towards modernity or it is moving towards a conservative theocratic state system. That's what we are debating about. The point is, when the Prime Minister, he goes to the international platform and says that cow urine can cure cancer, or there was head transplant in the country. When there is a trend in the name of Atmanirbhar Bharat, we tend to over-glorify all the traditional learnings and we tend to undermine whatever is modernity and modern science. Look at Ramdev Baba. At the height of COVID times, he's ridiculing the doctors. Now, all these emanates from certain form of ideology, certain form of a belief system that everything good emanated from the past. Vedas are infallible. It is putting a back towards the modernity. The point is, if the state wants to be truly modern, it wants to be truly progressive, then it needs to put up an enlightened form of a stature altogether, whether it is social institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, laws. On every aspect, it has to act in a rational and a modern way. But what happens is, we are modern at our convenience. Whatever is convenient to us, we are modern over there. But when it comes to certain social institutions and cultural ethos that we tend to carry it forward, we do not bring any reforms towards that. If the state is truly, if the government is truly committed towards transforming India into a modern state, it must initiate certain reforms. There's no meaning to talk about corruptions if we are not bringing laws such as reforms in Section 8 of the Representation of People's Act. Coming out with certain forms of reform. Now today the Prime Minister said that various institutions are being dominated by families. Now one of the major institutions that is dominated by family is the judiciary. Now if you cannot reform the collegium system, if you cannot bring about any form of change in the appointment of judges, you cannot simply come out with empty rhetoric. So the whole point is, there is something called as a rhetoric and there is something called as willingness to act and to act itself. What has the government done in this whole time period?
Let me open this up. Let me bring in Mr. Poonawalla to respond. First of all, Mr. Jindal, this is an uncomfortable equation that tradition, in some ways, India's traditions, its ancient belief systems are regressive. Embracing modernity doesn't mean that you forget. Anyhow, I don't want to sit on this this debate and pass judgment in what you said, but the Prime Minister did, Mr. Poonawalla, talk about developing pride in our heritage. It's the same heritage which has helped this country evolve and grow. You've heard where Mr. Jindal is coming from on this. When the Prime Minister sort of evokes our heritage, is he taking us back in time or is he taking us forward? One question. And secondly, how do you respond that this is all hypocritical?
Rahul, the problem with some people is that for a long time they have ignored the cultural legacy of this country and they have tried to superimpose models which never worked, and today that is being rejected by the people of India. And at a time when this country is now moving forward, on the one hand we are seeing the kind of growth and development that is taking place, and on the other hand the Prime Minister is also ensuring that the cultural virasat of this country, which was ignored for various reasons, perhaps due to appeasement politics, because of various other factors, that is also taken together. Those people who feel uncomfortable today are reacting. I think your poll in itself has indicated what the people believe, and these are people who have always put appeasement politics above any other thing, and therefore they are just reacting to that.
reacting to that. Danish Qureshi, Abbas Haider. Let me bring in Mr. Abbas Haider first, Samajwadi Party national spokesperson. Mr. Owaisi says Indian Muslims feel targeted, government has waged war against them. This government has been elected by a majority of Indians. In essence, why would they be doing something against the value systems of a majority of Indians? Number one, Abbas Haider, this is just a logical question that flows. Can you explain? Or is this all fear-mongering? As Shahzad Poonawalla says, an attempt to sort of...
Rahulji, today the very...
play a very, very cynical appeasement politics. Haider Saab.
Rahulji, today is a very auspicious day. We are all celebrating 75th year of our independence, and I think this day is beyond petty politics. Today I'll not go into whataboutery. You know what? We have accomplished a lot in last 75 years of our independence. This country has seen ups and downs, but the unity and diversity of this nation keeps us together. That is what we are proud of. Now, for me and for all of most of the citizens of this country, when the Prime Minister of the country, who holds the highest office as far as of the government when it's concerned, when he gives a speech from the Red Fort, for me it's a sermon. And when the Prime Minister gets into petty politics, even on that day, that is something which is not expected from a person of that stature. Now, it's the day when we should talk about the sacrifices, about millions of people who have sacrificed their life for the independence of our country, people who have contributed a lot for building this nation. It is time to talk about them, not to get into politics.
So, no, hang on, Mr. This motherhood statement that you have given, where is it? Give me the specifics. What do you believe was a political intervention by the Prime Minister from the ramparts of Red Fort, number one? Number two, why should people react in the manner that the Owaisis and other in the opposition are reacting? Number three, if you believe in such great motherhood statements, then can I ask you, why do your own party members like Mr. Burke and others who are members of parliament peddle this narrative constantly that there is no unity in diversity in this country?
No, people of this country believe in unity and diversity, and there's no doubt about that. Prime Minister was talking about strengthening the federal structure of the country, and what we have seen in the past, that there have been uneven allocation of union government fund to the state between BJP government and non-BJP led government. So this is something which is not expected from the union government. And second thing, Prime Minister in a speech a few years back, he promised that by 15th of August 2022, every citizen of this country, every family in this country will have their own house with facilities like electricity, water, toilets. Has he accomplished such things? So this is time to deliver thing to the nation. We are fed up with just speeches. We are fed up with gimmicks.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Poonawalla on this. Abbas Haider says it's all talk and nothing much more than talk. Mr. Poonawalla, quick response.
You see, Rahul, I think that the people of this country are answering what the Prime Minister is delivering and who is the one who's only talking. Because in the recent elections, whether it's 2014, 2017, 2019, 2022 or even the bypolls in 2022, the people have delivered a mandate on who is only talking and who is doing. So I think that this is just an inane argument that is being made. Secondly, today on a day like Independence Day, when we must all come together, take a resolve for the next 25 years, and we must say what our national resolve should be. Here you have people who even opposed on the day of 5th August, again opposing on the day of 15th August. What is the need for this opposition for the sake of opposition? It shows that some people only want to oppose progress and development of this country, and that is why people are punishing them in election after election.
Opposing for the sake of opposing, Mr. Jindal, charged by the BJP spokesperson, and I want to open this up to Shantanu Gupta right after and Danish Qureshi. Yes, Mr. Jindal, respond.
Congress has always pushed for Mile Sur Mera Tumhara to Sur Bane Hamara. But it should not be that you have to have your say on the lines of the majority government. The government must know that if at all there are certain sections of the masses which have different social and economic interests, they must be brought on board. The government policy has to be inclusive. It should not be exclusive, only adhering to certain sections of the masses, certain sections of a religion or a class or a community.
Mr. Jindal, there are several examples. That is exactly what you have done. Your policies have been selectively targeted at certain segments of the population.
We must shun away any form of servitude or colonial legacy. Then let me tell you, one of the greatest demands for independence or by the freedom fighters was to have elections and a responsible government in India. So now the present government, is it acting where the executive is responsible to the legislature? No. So the very idea of independence, whereby the executive has to be responsible to the legislature,
to the judiciary. I'm not understanding. Legislature. What are you saying?
The executive. Look at the manner in which the parliament has been functioning. The Chief Justice of India himself pointed out that the parliament has been deteriorating since 2014. The number of hours have been reduced, the disruptions have increased, and compared to the parliament functioning during the time period of Nehruvian era, compared to now, it just doesn't exist.
Okay.
There is anti-defection taking place. The representatives of the people are not truly able to have their grievances.
Can I ask you a small question? You
Yes,
said
please.
since the Nehruvian era, etc., etc., the 1991 Narasimha Rao government, on whose support was that government formed? And what were the circumstances?
It was a minority-led government.
Yes.
I'm not.
It was not minority-led. It was a minority government.
It was a minority government.
Yes.
That's what I'm
propped
saying.
Up by whom?
But then
propped up by whom?
The time period.
Propped up by whom?
But the time period of
propped up by whom?
Was that of a
Sir, propped up. No. Propped up by whom?
1991.
Propped up by whom?
To the present time.
Propped up by cash. Right or wrong?
1991 cannot be compared to the present time.
Oh, I see.
That
1991
was the time period of crisis.
Okay, that was the Nehruvian time.
Of crisis.
Okay.
No, that's not. 1991 is not the Nehruvian.
Well, I don't know, sir.
1991, we already know that Rajiv Gandhi died.
Okay.
And Congress was undergoing crisis. We know what had happened at the center. There was no party which was able to bring about.
So you paid money
leadership.
to JMM legislators, and you are talking about cross-voting.
Sir, it was Congress which brought about the anti-defection law.
Sir, I'm only asking you a
Congress which
question.
brought about Prevention of Corruption Act.
Okay,
It was
Mr. Poonawalla,
Congress which brought
Mr.
about reforms to
Poonawalla,
restrict
quick
corruption.
response to Lokesh Jindal. There are three issues here, viewers. We are discussing, number one, the attack on the Prime Minister from the opposition today, calling out his hypocrisy on inclusiveness. The Congress says that it has been the most inclusive party, that they never gave preferential treatment to any denomination in this country, that they are the true representatives of the Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb
of India.
Right. So let's first get a response on that aspect from Shahzad Poonawalla. The next question that I'll pose to Mr. Gupta. Yes, Mr. Poonawalla, your first and foremost, your response on the first question from Lokesh Jindal.
No, if those who have given this country, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Delhi, Hashimpura, Bhagalpur, Meerut, Malyana, Delhi riots, and in the Delhi riots, the Delhi High Court had to in fact say the manner in which the top executive of that time tried to prevent the cases from going ahead, how they sheltered the likes of Sajjan Kumar. If those people champion themselves as people who stood for inclusiveness, then it is as if the devil is preaching scriptures. These are the people who went on to say that the first right on the resources of the country belongs to one section of society. These are the people who in Rajasthan continue to give patronage to the likes of Matlub Ahmed, haven't been able to catch him yet. And in Karoli, Jhalawar, Chhabra, Tong, Bilwara, there have been riots after riots. So if they portray themselves as champions of inclusiveness, then I wonder what the definition of inclusiveness is. The fact of the matter is today, Rahul, that when 80 crore people are being given rations today, there is no distinction between Muhammad and Mohit. When 12 crore people are being given toilets, there is no distinction between Shilpa and Sultana. There is not a single instance of institutional discrimination of minorities or of any other sections that are being done in this government which they can point out to, but there is a narrative that is built up, and that narrative is used for vote bank politics, and they have this competition of Tushtikaran, and this competition of Tushtikaran goes to even extent of opposing Supreme Court orders. If they are so inclusive, why oppose the Supreme Court order on Teen Talaq? If they are so inclusive, why oppose the Karnataka High Court order on hijab? They should be standing and batting for the rights of women. So why are they opposing this?
Mr. Jindal, quick response since you've raised your hand. Danish Qureshi waiting, and so is Mr. Shantanu Gupta. Yes.
Sir,
If you were so inclusive, why oppose one law for one nation?
Yes. Government, whether it is the halal issue, whether it is the hijab issue, whether it is the issue pertaining to certain section of the masses, then let me tell you, the laws must be uniform in nature. Their application must be uniform.
So, do you believe in the UCC?
You are targeting one particular.
Mr. Jindal, do you believe in the UCC? Do you believe in the Uniform Civil Code?
Yes, certainly.
Certainly.
The Uniform Civil Code should not be imposed from above.
From where should it be
Some
imposed?
form of a synthesis. There must be a synthesis between a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach.
Okay, Shantanu Gupta. I don't know what he means. Only Parliament can frame the law. I don't understand.
No, sir,
what do you mean bottom and top
Sir,
down?
when I'm talking, do you have judicial institutions so as to deal with the civil laws that would be emanating from the application of Uniform Civil Code?
Okay, Shantanu Gupta, quickly respond to Mr. Jindal.
I think Rahul, today's Prime Minister's speech was by far his best. In fact, it was a speech of a confident India, self-reliant India, and that's making everybody rattled. I'm hearing Lokesh Jindalji and Abbas Haidarji, and I'm sure if they will hear their own speech, their own interjection after the recording, I think they will find it totally out of order. I think today's India is a self-reliant India, where on the aspirational side and for the poor, both the sides work is happening. As Shehzad said, the number of bank accounts, toilets, the number of medical colleges, and on the other side, we are leading in renewable energy. We are leading in digital transactions. So this is the aspirational India which I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote today, and every Indian can connect to it. He touched upon unicorns to toilets. I think that's the beauty of it, and that's why people are giving mandate state after state, election after election. I think that's why the whole opposition looks rattled, and that's why Lokesh Jindalji, Abbas Haidarji, who are otherwise quite sharp in debates, sounds totally out of order today.
Mr. Qureshi, why fearmonger? You've seen the poll. The poll clearly says India wants a UCC. It's the most inclusive law that one could promulgate. The Congress today, or the Congress leader today, Mr. Jindal here, now suddenly started supporting the UCC. But he says it should not be a top-down imposition, which I don't understand what he's trying to get at. But nonetheless, that aside, if India wants a UCC, how can those very same Indians be so parochial as to elect a government that wants to target Muslims?
I will reply to I will reply on 2 points. If we talk about the Vikas, I think Britishers have done more Vikas instead of this Jumlebaz, what they are doing. Even then, the citizen of the country has declared war against them. Unka Vikas nahi swikara gaya.
British
don't get on that they are doing
British
Vikas,
left,
that's why
sir.
people like them. And no mandate. Rahul, let me allow to complete.
Left us to starve.
No mandate. Listen one thing. No mandate.
They divided our country.
Independence Day of India, somebody.
They asset stripped our nation.
Oh my God.
Yes, they divided in country, but how they come in India? They come in
Danish Qureshi is singing songs for British
by
era.
making bridges,
Oh my
by
God.
making
Oh my God.
universities and all
This is
that.
like,
Even then, the
this is
people of the
senseless.
country has declared war against them,
This is
and in
senseless. This is taking
1947
hate
they
to
have to
another
leave
level.
India. That was the main consequence. Second thing. Poonawala was talking about the mandate. What is the mandate? Public give you mandate to form a government, to form a chief minister, not the chief justice, who bulldoze and who give the verdict to bulldoze a house of anyone before the court give the verdict. So remember one thing: you are being elected representative. Behave in that manner. Nobody has got mandate to cross the boundaries of the constitution. That is the main thing. And third thing is that constitution says about the equality between social, economical, and political. Where is the political equality of the religious minority, Rahul? I want reply from Poonawala.
Okay. Where's the political equality of the minority, Mr. Poonawala? That's the question.
You see, You see, the problem, Rahul, is that some people have not come out of their Jinnah mindset. This mindset to divide the country, divide classrooms, divide every institution on the basis of community. This country chose to be a secular country, which means that a Shehzad does not need to be represented by Muslim electorate. One second, can I please answer, Rahul? Can I please answer? Can I answer without?
कुरैशी साहब सुन तो लीजिए जवाब. सुन तो लीजिए जवाब.
No, he is not answering, Rahul.
Let him get to it, sir.
See,
did he stop
Rahul,
you? Did he interfere? No, he didn't interrupt you. You
but I
spoke
can
all
never
your
satisfy.
points. Let him finish what he has to say. Yes.
Ironically, Rahul, these are the people who have the name of just one community in their party name. It is All India Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimin. It is not Majlis-e-Ittihadul Indian. It is Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimin. Those who have a stated objective of working for only one community. अरे भाई, हमारी पार्टी का नाम तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी है. आपकी पार्टी का नाम एक समुदाय विशेष के नाम पर है और आप सबका साथ सबका विकास की बात कर रहे हैं.
शहजाद कहाँ है?
आप पहले अपने पार्टी का नाम बदल लीजिए, फिर इक्वालिटी की बात कीजिए.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी में समानता कहाँ है बताइए. आप
देखिए,
आप बताइए कहाँ है समानता.
आपकी पार्टी है, ये आप ही की पार्टी है, ये आप ही की पार्टी है, ये आप ही की पार्टी है. अब दूसरी बात, राहुल,
छोड़ दीजिए दूसरी पार्टियों को. देखिए, कांग्रेस बुरी है, एमआईएम बुरी है, बाकी समाजवादी.
Mr. Qureshi is answering your question. I don't have all the time in this world, you know. Let him finish.
पार्टी में समानता कहाँ है?
अरे let him finish. Let him finish.
Rahul, he will not finish. I knew him very well. ये बगले झांकेंगे और कुछ नहीं करेंगे.
आप डिबेट पे आए हैं कि अपनी आवाज सुनने के लिए आए हैं? अगर आप डिबेट में आए तो आप किसी और की आवाज सुन लीजिए. आप उनके घर के बाहर इसके बाद धरना डाल सकते हैं, मगर अभी यहाँ ना धरना डालिए. जरा हमारे को 2 मिनट की इजाजत तो दीजिए साहब.
राहुल
सर,
Rahul,
आपसे हम हाथ जोड़ के कहते हैं.
Citizen of the country.
2 minutes.
And we have a question with the government.
He's answering the question. He's going to. If you allow him to answer, but if you constantly derail and interrupt, he won't be able to answer. You may not like his answer, but let him at least answer. बोलने तो दीजिए साहब. Yes, Mr. Poonawala. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Okay.
Rahul, what should be the parameter for judging whether there is Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas? Today there is not a single case of institutional discrimination that they can point about. All that they say is कि याकूब को फांसी क्यों मिली? Because he is a Muslim. This is what Owaisi said. Tahir Hussain को जेल क्यों हुई? Because he is a Muslim. That's what they say. When a triple talaq order comes out, they say that this is atrocity on the Muslim man. This kind of approach to divide and communalize court orders is the approach that they are adopting. Secondly, today, again I reiterate the point. Where is the institutional discrimination against any community? 45 crore bank accounts were opened. Did it open only for Hindus and not for Muslims? Toilets were made 12 crore. Was it only for Hindus, not for Muslims? Ration was distributed. नल से जल पहुंचाया गया. उज्ज्वला cylinder दिए गए. All of these benefits have translated into benefits for both Hindus and Muslims. In fact, a new community of people called the Labharti.
Okay, viewers.
But now see what is happening in Rajasthan. Electricity is distributed.
Okay,
viewers. Get the state of affairs.
One second. Jindal, Mr. Jindal, Mr. Qureshi. Look, I've run out of time. This is what happens when you constantly heckle and you don't allow somebody to finish their point. 1 second. Gentlemen, you've heard a particular point of view, you've heard the counter point of view, you've heard a clarification, and you've also heard the counter argument. I leave it for you. Today, I leave it for you to judge. I leave it for you to judge. Think about these points that have been raised. And most importantly, the poll outcomes that we have shown you. We leave it at that in this segment of the show. Now, viewers, we are going to be speaking with filmmaker Vivek Agnihotri. He is one of our storytellers, one of those who did not buy into the propaganda, who refused to accept the narrative as it is being fed to us. He challenged what we were being taught in our history books, what we are in fact still being taught in some quarters to ignore. Viewers, it is subalterns like him who have resurrected what should be really the aspirational goals that define the idea of India going forward. And one of those ideals is justice. Remember what the Prime Minister said, viewers? He said that we must have pride in our heritage. We have spent too much time burying the truth, burying our history. And I want to today speak to Mr. Vivek Agnihotri, who was attacked, viewers, humiliated for telling us our own history. Now I want to ask you, Vivek ji, whether it is in Delhi or it is in the hallowed halls of Oxford where you went, you have faced resistance. Why is it that there is this conspiracy, Vivek Agnihotri, against the real truth in this country? Why don't they want us to reveal the real truth?
So, thank you for inviting me. First, I want to wish all the viewers of Times Now very, very happy Independence Day. I am a son of freedom fighters. Both my parents are freedom fighters. And my mother got married at 17. Tab jaldi shaadi hoti thi. But within 12 days or 14 days, she was in the jail. And she spent most of her youth in the jail, and my father. So for me, it's a great day. I'm a very proud Indian, Rahul. The problem is, the problem actually is fundamentally what Mr. Modi also said in his speech, is with the wrong portrayal of the history. There is no, I visit, you also visit, so many countries, wherever you go, people talk about their heritage, their culture, their history, everything with a sense of pride, a belonging, which you are not ashamed of. Whatever, even my parents were very, not rich people, they were middle class people, but I was very proud of my parents to introduce them to my friends. But what has happened of late since post-liberalization, I have noticed, this is my personal observation, that everything Indian people doubt it. And these are professional spokespersons of certain groups with vested interests, whether it's a terror groups or whether these are Marxist groups or Naxal groups, but primarily anti-India and also Hindu-phobic groups. They professionally do so much of propaganda amongst the young people that today, if you want to speak truth, if you say India was genuinely the largest contributor in the global GDP, now you will find that everybody will start laughing, ridiculing you and humiliating you. Same thing happened with me when I opened the file of Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri's controversial death. It will remain controversial as long as there is no 100% proof what happened. Then even in case of Kashmir, when I spoke about Hindu genocide, I was boycotted, first of all, by my own industry, which I don't belong to anymore, which is so-called Bollywood, by the critics, by the political people, the political powers, by Congress, by Marxists, almost everybody. And you will find these are the same people who never condemn when Nupur Sharma's life is being threatened. Or when Salman Rushdie is being attacked, the same people keep quiet, they don't speak. The same film stars go for anti-CAA protests openly, but don't utter a word against threats on Nupur Sharma. This hypocrisy actually has engulfed the entire socio-political culture of the country. And therefore, people like me, and I see you also being attacked by the same people, anybody who is going to talk anything good about India or the true history of India is going to be attacked, humiliated, ridiculed, isolated, cancelled, deplatformed.
Well, they will try, but they won't succeed because, as they say, viewers, Satyamev Jayate. I want to ask you another important question. There was so much controversy over the Har Ghar Tiranga initiative that has been launched. Many people said that, no one should tell us when, how, where to fly the Tiranga. Do you believe that the Prime Minister was trying to sort of control us by asking us to unfurl the national flag on top of our homes? Was there some ulterior motive? Because many people said that, look, this is the stuff of dictators. How do you respond to this? Because today, and you know, you made a whole movie on Kashmir, on the emotional gap between, you know, Kashmir and India. You've tried to bridge it. And people always make the Tiranga a test, really, of our oneness. Why?
So see, if somebody who has no credibility, who has no track record of doing good work on the ground, if he calls for these kind of slogans, then this is propaganda. Then because it's got no substance. But it is coming from the same person who said Har Ghar Bijli and he delivered it. He said Har Ghar vaccine and he delivered it. I'm doing research on vaccine. I'm really surprised. I have not heard those spokespersons of anti-India lobby, or whom I call urban naxals, have spoken about vaccine. I think it's one of the greatest achievements of India, and it happened under the leadership of Mr. Narendra Modi. And he delivered. I know, I'm in the research. When my film will come, people will know how they have worked 24/7. Prime Minister's office was working 24/7 just to ensure that we get the fastest vaccine on this earth, which we did. Similarly, electricity, toilets, so much. I mean, look at the Swachh Abhiyan. Today, every child, you try and throw something outside your car, your child will stop you. Your child will stop you. Whether you're middle class, upper class, urban, or a smaller town, it doesn't matter. So somebody who's trying to change the collective attitudes of the country and delivering to people has a right to say this, that Har Ghar Tiranga. It is about India. It's the 75th Independence Day. It's the greatest day. People who order thousands of balloons and cakes and celebrate their birthdays like anything. People celebrate their cats' birthdays, their dogs' birthdays. And I'm saying people, I definitely mean the people who are opposing it. I know exactly the people who celebrate their cats and dogs' birthdays, and they ask you to reshare their tweets and posts. The same people are objecting to this call for Har Ghar Tiranga. I'm saying, why Har Ghar Tiranga only in India? Har Tiranga should go everywhere. Wherever Indians are in the world, there should be Tiranga. I go to US, I see every house has their flag, and nobody questions it. I think we should now rise above all these things, and we should celebrate the greatness of our country. Why not?
So you're saying that this is not propaganda, this is basically reveling in what the tricolour stands for. Okay, this is an alternative perspective, viewers, that you are getting from Mr. Agnihotri, completely unleavened, pretty much against what some opposition leaders that you've just heard on this show have been saying. But I don't want to dwell on that. I want to expand this conversation very quickly and take you to Srinagar once again. The question that is often asked is, there hasn't been enough emotional integration with India of Kashmir. When you were researching this movie, what are the obstacles to this? Who is the one that has created this sort of disconnect emotionally, if there is, or are you seeing a change?
Okay, yeah. I'll tell you what I have observed. Number one, what happened was, Rahul, that the entire younger generation of Kashmir was born after 1990. So they have not seen things with their own eyes. They have just heard. And because after 1990, the kind of atmosphere which was built in Kashmir, it was disconnected, it was isolated for a variety of reasons, and it was not connected to the mainland India, as we call it. And in the meantime, all these young boys and girls have started taking India's name as if it was a foreign country. My driver, who was driving me all the times in the shoot, he used to tell me, I bought these shoes when I went abroad. I said, where did you go? He said, Delhi. So, and he said it very innocently, without even realizing that it's not true. But the change which has come now is that they have realized and they have understood that they are integral part of India and there is no alternative. So when you cut down choices from somebody's life, then you mentally start getting prepared to lead that life happily and successfully. Second thing, the young boys and girls in Kashmir have understood that the economy is growing, lots of new projects are coming in, and they have to become part of this new economy. of Kashmir. And that's why they look at this entire process very differently from regular politicians and all those kind. These two changes I've seen. And the third thing is that today you can carry the tricolor. It's a very big change, because earlier I have seen so many videos where Pakistan's flags are on every terrace, on every house. Cricket match, hockey match, any kind of thing, only Pakistan's flags everywhere. Now you are seeing those visuals. Whatever you want to call it, people can call it, but it's a very positive change to see the flag changing from Pakistan's flag to Indian flag. I think people are not realizing these two are major changes that psychologically Kashmiri youth understanding that this is the only way of life for them now. They have to learn to deal with it. It will take some time. It's a 30-year-old conditioning. It will take some time to change. Second thing, they have realized they have to play an active part in India's economy if they have to survive. And the third thing is, which is symbolism of displaying flag or becoming part of a march or national flags or watching patriotic plays and things like that. I think it's slowly becoming a commonplace in Kashmir. I think these three are very major changes.
But many people say, my last question to you, I know you don't want to take up more of your time, sir, but like the Prime Minister said, that Ekta is a route to Akhandata, to Shresth Bharat. Many people say that Ekta cannot happen till there is a sense of inclusiveness. And you have heard the likes of Mr. Owaisi, etc., or even some opposition parties, and they believe that the government doesn't actually promote, even symbolically, the concept of inclusiveness. You just look at the cabinet, there are no prominent Muslim faces in cabinet, etc., etc. Tickets are not given to them. So how do you create a sense of nationhood?
See, in a day-to-day life, if you see, there is no other. I challenge anybody, all the intellectuals and anybody who wants, I am willing to take this challenge. Show me any other country in the world which has so much of interactive diversity in one day. In India, every single day, you are interacting, means transaction is taking place between Hindus and Muslims and Christians, or with Sikhs, or people with different language, different colors, different belief systems. Every single day, 130 crore people are interacting with each other, and we live happily. People don't like this. So as far as inclusiveness is concerned, a lot of people, I'll give you an example of my film, The Kashmir Files. A lot of people say it's not inclusive. And because I don't want to talk about it, my film is being produced. The producer of my film is a Muslim, Sharik, who's the CEO of Z. All the actors in my film who are playing Hindu roles are all Muslims. My film is line produced by all Muslims. My lyrics are written by Muslims. My songs are sung by Muslims. Some of the most crucial people in the film are Muslims. Now, because people don't see these things on day-to-day basis, do you care, Rahul, who is a Muslim in your office, who is not? Nobody does. It's only when it comes to a political debate. And this debate has very sadly, because of the appeasement politics in India, secularism simply meant appeasement of minority, means only Muslims. Nobody appeases any other minority. I don't see them appeasing Jains or Parsis or Sikhs or anybody. Means Muslims and Hindu bashing. This is what secularism became, and that's why people are so much against. We are the most inclusive society in the entire world. There is no dispute on that. And as far as the tolerance part, why don't you tolerate this and that? We are a society of acceptance. The problem comes, I'll tell you, since you asked, the problem comes, who is not trying to, I want to include you in my life. But if you are resisting that inclusiveness, including you, nobody can do anything. Now, Muslims have been living here for last 1,000 years. They are part of this society. And a lot of people do not even know that there was Muslims, by religion they were Muslims, but culturally they have all been like Hindus. They've been celebrating all our festivals. They tie Rakhis and all those kind of things. So when you go to smaller towns, you'll find there's no difference. But the problem is the so-called activist Muslim lobby doesn't want to be included in the mainstream milieu of Bharat. And they keep resisting it. That's why you'll see when a Nupur Sharma is threatened, all the entire Muslim society keeps quiet. When somebody goes and beheads a Kanhaiya Lal, they keep quiet. When a fact checker actually creates a situation like Salman Rushdie's situation, where they create a situation that Nupur's life is under threat, then all of them come to support that fact checker. Now, these are the problem areas. This problem of inclusiveness.
So these are vested interests. These are vested interests that are
it can be answered only by the Muslim community.
Okay.
I don't understand. Like, for example, Javed Akhtar Saab was very against Salman Rushdie writing that book. Okay, but I have never heard, and he says he's an atheist and a very balanced and logical and rational. He calls himself rationalist. Why didn't he utter a word when Nupur's life is threatened? Why didn't he utter a word when Udaipur, that tailor's killing happened? Never. They never say if a Hindu is killed. Whereas Hindus come to support when a Muslim is killed wrongly. So it's the onus now is on the Muslim community to come forward and say, yes, you are welcoming us and we want to be part of this. They cannot afford to isolate themselves from the main fabric of India.
Okay, well, Mr. Agnihotri always speaks his mind. Thank you very much, Mr. Agnihotri, for speaking to us on this August occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul.
For decision makers, for the opinionated, for the unsure, for dinner time debaters, from metro stations to living rooms.
We present the facts and help India make a judgment. From stories that shake the nation to opinions that shape them, I delve deep into the biggest news of the day and uncover every fact, every source, and every statement through debate and discussion. Get a 360-degree perspective on every story and get a conclusive closure. Join me, Navika Kumar, on the Newshour at 9, only on Times Now.
To commemorate 75 years of Indian independence, PM Modi launched Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. And yes, the campaign is exactly what it sounds like. Under this, the centre aims to see the tricolour hoisted atop more than 20 crore houses across the country. The aim of the campaign is to motivate each and every citizen of the country to bring the Tiranga home and to hoist it to mark Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now, in order to make sure that Tiranga is within the reach of each and every citizen of this country, the centre had to make some amendments in the Flag Code 2002. Questioning the amendments, the Congress slammed the BJP and said that the amendments in the Flag Code were specially made to favour China. Later, Congress further alleged that centre is now trying to sell the national flag. But before we delve deeper into this, let's first have a look at the original Flag Code and the amendments made to it. The centre has amended certain rules of the Indian Flag Code 2002 to aid the launch of Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. The centre, in the first amendment, allowed the use of polyester apart from cotton, wool, silk and khadi for making the hand-spun, hand-woven and machine-made flags. Earlier, the use of polyester and machine-made flags was not allowed. The next amendment came on July 20th, which allowed the display of Tiranga in open and also said that it can be hoisted day and night. Earlier, the flag was allowed to be hoisted only from sunrise to sunset, irrespective of the weather conditions. The amendment made by the centre in December 2021, which allowed the use of machine-made and polyester flags, is being widely criticized by the Congress. The Congress accuses BJP of favouring China by allowing the imports of polyester. Besides the opposition, some khadi weavers and some activists have also protested against the amendment brought by the centre in the Flag Code 2002. The Karnataka Khadi Udyog, for instance, has halted its operations and have also demanded a nationwide protest. The idea behind Har Ghar Tiranga is to invoke the feeling of patriotism in the hearts of the people and to promote awareness about the national flag. The centre believes that by bringing the national flag home collectively, it will become symbolic of not only an act of personal connection to the Tiranga, but also an embodiment of our commitment to nation building. Even though the opposition has criticized Har Ghar Tiranga campaign to the core, the BJP on the other hand has stuck to its nationalism agenda. While a political slugfest ensued over the use of Tiranga, the people of the country are dipped in patriotic fervour to celebrate the day. Even as the campaign gets criticized, the idea and the main aim of the centre behind this campaign was to instill the patriotism in each and every citizen. And perhaps BJP did succeed in doing that.
In August last year, Taliban seized to power. They promised they have changed. They called them.
All the top stories on the show tonight, viewers.
On the occasion of Independence Day, President Draupadi Murmu hosted at home at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The grand reception was attended by all dignitaries, including ministers and MPs. In a huge embarrassment for the Bihar government, ex-RJD leader Anand Mohan, who has been jailed for life for murdering a DM, was seen at his home with family and supporters. After the incident went viral, 6 cops were suspended and a probe has been launched. A clash erupted between BJP and TRS workers during BJP's Praja Sangrama Yatra in Telangana. The BJP workers claimed TRS members attacked them with sticks. The clash erupted over replacement of Savarkar's poster with Tipu Sultan. Now, Section 144 has been imposed in the district. After the Bihar CM Nitish Kumar's announcement of 10 lakh jobs in the state, Deputy CM Tejashwi Yadav quipped on other parties and said that their party is not a Jumla party. Delhi police have filed a charge sheet against the 5 accused, including the building owner in the Mundka fire case. At least 27 people lost their lives in the horrific incident. A man has been taken into custody by the Mumbai police for issuing threats to Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani and his family. The man, identified by the police as 56-year-old Vishnu Bhaumik, had made multiple threat calls on a landline number at the Reliance Foundation Hospital in Mumbai.
party symbol, flag of Bharatiya Janata Party is also there. But what is more shocking is this a particular sticker which has been on the windshield of this car, which says that Vidhayak Vidhan Sabha Sachivalaya, Gadi number 0505. I'm sorry, it's a UP 32HH 0001.
इससे बड़ी शर्म की बात नहीं हो सकती।
I am saying some things that are maybe not the easiest thing in the world to hear. I'm not sitting here or standing here promising you tens and tens of billions of pounds of goodies straight away, because I don't think that's the right thing to do for our economy. But I want to be honest with you. I want to be straight with the country about the challenges we face and what is going to be required to fix them. And that's why I think you can trust me on this, because I'm prepared to do that, even though it's going to cost me politically.
Ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very happy Independence Day to all of you. Today, as we celebrate 75 years of our independence, Prime Minister Modi led the nation in those celebrations from the ramparts of the Red Fort this morning, when he hoisted the tricolour and called for the country to take 5 pledges. The Panch Pran, as he called it, which would change the course of this country for the better. The Panch Pran that would ensure a golden India by 2047, when we as a country would celebrate our 100 years of independence. Prime Minister Modi dwelt on the ideas for the future, spelled out the vision for the next 25 years and painted the big picture that we all as Indians needed to see. But while the Prime Minister spoke of this golden age, he stressed on overcoming two big challenges, two evils that need to be weeded out: corruption and dynasty politics. He said India needs to be vigilant not just against corruption but also against corrupt netas. They need to be punished, was the Prime Minister's clarion call. Dynasty politics is ruining our institutions and hindering the nation's progress. Listen in to how the Prime Minister launched this unsparing attack in his 82-minute speech that he made from the Red Fort today.
मैं सबकी चर्चा न करते हुए दो पर जरूर चर्चा करना चाहता हूं। एक है भ्रष्टाचार, दूसरा है भाई भतीजावाद, परिवारवाद। भारत जैसे लोकतंत्र में जहां लोग गरीबी से जूझ रहे हैं, जब एक तरफ से देखते हैं एक तरफ वो लोग हैं जिनके पास रहने के लिए जगह नहीं है, दूसरी पार वो तरफ लोग हैं जिनको अपना चोरी किया हुआ माल रखने के लिए जगह नहीं है। ये स्थिति अच्छी नहीं है दोस्तों, और इसलिए हमें भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ पूरी ताकत से लड़ना है। भ्रष्टाचार दीमक की तरह देश को खोखला कर रहा है। मुझे इसके खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़नी है, लड़ाई को तेज करना है, निर्णायक मोड़ पे लेकर के ही जाना है। देश में भ्रष्टाचार के प्रति नफरत तो दिखती है, व्यक्त भी होती है, लेकिन कभी कभी भ्रष्टाचारियों के प्रति उदारता बरती जाती है। किसी भी देश में ये शोभा नहीं देगा। कई लोग तो इतनी बेशर्मी तक चले जाते हैं कि कोर्ट में सजा हो चुकी हो, भ्रष्टाचारी सिद्ध हो चुका हो, जेल जाना तय हो चुका हो, जेल गुजार रहे हो, उसके बावजूद भी उनका महिमा मंडन करने में लगे रहते हैं। परिवारवाद ने देश के सामर्थ्य को सबसे सारा अन्याय किया है। परिवारवादी राजनीति परिवार की भलाई के लिए होती है, उसको देश की भलाई से कोई लेना देना नहीं होता है।
Now here's why Prime Minister Modi's onslaught on corruption and dynasty politics is extremely significant. When he said that some in this country were finding it difficult to hide their money, he was making a clear reference to the wads of cash that were recovered from former Trinamool Congress's minister's aide's home. And he said this very, very pointedly, that while they were looking for places to hide them, referring to the multiple flats that had come out in the open where these notes and bundles of money were kept, at a time when there are many in this country who have to sleep hungry. A veiled attempt perhaps at the Aam Aadmi Party too, when the Prime Minister spoke of the need to hate the corrupt and view them with contempt rather than trying to give them recognition and try to protect them. And then his second attack was on Parivarvad and Bhai Bhatijawad jibes, which come at a time when a former ally has dumped the BJP in Bihar for a family-run political party. The Prime Minister did not name any party, but when he said that politics of Parivarvad does not allow merit to prosper, it was clear who he was referring to. The Congress took that bait as expected by the Prime Minister, and the BJP scoffed at him for using this day and this platform to settle political scores. They said the family that the Prime Minister refers to is the only family that is fighting for this country. Listen in.
Dynasty politics are much more in BJP compared to any other party. Entire country is facing problems. Rather than talking about all those things, this dirty politics is not expected from the Prime Minister.
It was not necessary to bring up these issues
at the Independence Day, let us strengthen democracy. That should have been his call. Unfortunately, he was trying to score political points.
Modi ji should first realize that if he wants to end Parivarwad, he should end right from his own Bharatiya Janata Party. There are many Parivarwad within Bharatiya Janata Party.
जो संघ परिवार का है उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं, और जो बाकी है वो अगर भ्रष्टाचार नहीं भी करे तो आप केंद्रीय एजेंसियों को उनके पीछे लगा के अपना राजनीतिक हित साधना चाहते हैं.
Deep what you call relationship with corruption, especially when the corrupt are part of my party, I shall not move. When the corrupt are not in my party, then I will create some hue and cry about it. That is the position taken by the Bharatiya Janata Party. So these words actually coming from the mouth of the Prime Minister does not particularly weigh very much as far as we are concerned.
So the legitimate question that I want to ask on the Newshour tonight, why won't the opposition unite for war on graft? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate tonight, GVL Narasimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Riju Datta, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, Ghanshyam Tiwari, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And I want to begin with my question to Mr. Riju Datta of the TMC. Mr. Riju Datta, do you believe that fighting against corruption is not something that this country should do? Why then is Mr. Saugato Roy coming out and talking about petty politics? Isn't corruption a larger issue? Politics, no politics, businessmen, banks, etc., etc. Can you say that fight against corruption is not a legitimate objective for this country called India to have on the 75 years of completion of independence?
Navika ji, first of all, a very, very happy Independence Day to you and all my esteemed panelists. And I completely agree with you, and I completely agree with the Honorable Prime Minister when he talks about fighting with corruption. And anybody who is corrupt and anybody who is caught in corruption, who is pronounced by the court of law as corrupt, should be behind bars, no questions asked. But when the Prime Minister talks about this, the Prime Minister also should introspect in his own party. He made that famous speech when he came to power that I will bring the black money back. What happened to Mehul Choksi, Vijay Mallya, Lalit Modi, Nirav Modi? All flew from this country. Nothing came back. Secondly, he talks about corruption. Let me talk about his own union cabinet. 39% of the union cabinet currently has criminal charges against them. From the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who had 37 criminal cases against him, to Ajay Mishra Teni's son, Ajay Mishra Teni still in the cabinet, to Vyapam scam convicted Shivraj Chauhan, to Hemant Biswa Sarma convicted in Naroda Sharoda EDI charge sheet mentioned, to the most important, our Neta Pratipaksh of Bengal, who's mentioned in the ED CBI charge sheet, seen having a cup of tea with the Home Minister of the country 2 days ago. So I think it is very good what the Prime Minister wants, the message that the Prime Minister wants to send to the country, but it also sounds very rich, and he should introspect in his own party, weed out all these corrupt leaders, get rid of his union cabinet and start afresh. That will give a better platform for India to go forward till our 100 years, which is the projected plan for the Prime Minister.
Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, Mr. Riju Datta makes a scathing attack that there is no investigation into your own. In fact, he also compares apples and oranges when he talks about criminal charges. Criminal charges not necessarily are corruption charges. So when he talks about Ajay Mishra Teni and when he talks about Yogi Adityanath, these are not corruption charges, but these are charges of other criminal cases that have been foisted, which politicians normally call politically motivated cases. But the fact is Mr. Riju Datta running away from the wads of notes that have been found in the AIDS house, a very senior minister's AIDS house in West Bengal? And today when they begin to talk about ED and CBI naming Shubhendu Adhikari, At least is it a step forward? Their faith and belief in the ED and CBI seem to have returned.
Navika ji, to you and all the panelists and the viewers of Times Now, a very, very happy Independence Day, 75th year of Independence Day greetings to all. I think Honorable Prime Minister's speech this morning, I think is one of the most inspirational speeches that any leader of the nation has delivered till date. I think it was full of aspirations. It had set the agenda for the country for the next 25 years while expressing satisfaction for what this country has achieved in 75 years. Honorable Prime Minister was very direct when he said there are areas where we certainly as a nation collectively need to work towards realizing the goals of India. I think, and the two priorities that he mentioned towards the end of his speech, I think they ought to be the priorities of every single party and every single leader in this country, of every single citizen in this country, a fight against corruption. I think Honorable Prime Minister talked about many vows that we all should take. I expect friends from the opposition, Mr. Datta, to take this vow not to spread rumors and not to indulge in falsehood. He said somebody was convicted in Vyapam. I don't know which leader was convicted in Vyapam. He has taken names of Chief Minister without having an iota of shame. I think you cannot, and the number of cases that he talked about have nothing to do with any kind of corruption or civil, any kind of charges. Most of them have been facing charges of political struggles, which all leaders in political parties do face. But in 8 years, nearly 8 years, 3 months, Honorable Prime Minister has delivered a spotless government. As opposition is unable to even point a finger at any decision taken by the Honorable Prime Minister and his government in 8 years. I think he has clearly, I think in 75th year, he has set the goal of achieving in 25 years. And he said we will stop nothing of a developed India. The target is to have India as a developed nation in 25 years and to address all economic, social and political ills that this country faces. And I know when he talks about Bhai Bhatijavad, Parivarwad, family dynastic politics, it certainly hurts a lot of them. You see the same thing in TMC, Bhatijavad. You see the same thing in parties like the Samajwadi Party, which is nothing like another version of the Congress, a family party. And when Prime Minister talks about corruption, I expect the entire opposition to join hand in hand. But then they all have their hands deep in corruption, and therefore they would rather fight the Prime Minister who is fighting corruption rather than join the fight against corruption. I think this country certainly, he has held a mirror to the political parties and leaders in this country, and he has laid out the nation's priorities very clearly. He talked about gender justice, he talked about gender respect. I think he has clearly laid out a roadmap for the country for 25 years. People are in tune with him. I expect the political parties, he made this point very clear. He said, including myself, we are all citizens, we all have our rights, we all have our responsibilities. Next 25 years, we must dedicate to the development of this country by exercising our responsibilities, by fulfilling our responsibilities, not to claim of our rights alone.
Well, hands are going up on the panel. Coming to you, Riju Datta, but let me get in Tehseen Poonawala first. Tehseen, the Prime Minister talks about 5 prans or the 5 promises that we need to make to ourselves. The first pran is the goal of developed India. Can you disagree with that? Yes or no?
No, but I do agree that if Modi is Prime Minister, we will be developed.
I'll give you time. I'll give you time, my friend. I'm just saying, do you agree with this promise that we need to make to ourselves, which is to go towards making of a developed India? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
All right. Second promise, remove any trace of the colonial mindset. Do you agree with this? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. Third, he says take pride in our roots agree with that? Any dispute with that promise to ourselves?
I take pride in my roots. I don't know if the BJP does.
Fantastic. So fourth, Pran, unity. Do you believe that unity is something that this country needs?
As long as BJP is there, it's difficult to achieve. We need it.
Yes or no?
I believe we need it. We definitely
Okay,
need
so
it.
fifth promise, sense of duty among citizens. Do we all need to have duties along with the rights that we have in the Constitution? Do you agree with that premise?
Absolutely.
So what do you not agree with the Prime Minister? You almost sound like somebody who belongs to the BJP, because what I want to prove to you is these are universal truths. It's got nothing to do with party lines. It's got nothing to do with north of India, south of India, east of India, west of India. These are universal truths that require citizens to appreciate and promise once again to ourselves to bring back the glorious days to India. So where is the problem, Tehseen Poonawalla? Why are you so upset with corruption and Bhai Bhatijawad and Parivarwad? Because those are the two that you can't do without. Isn't that it?
Namaskar, Navika ji. Happy Independence Day to you, to all my fellow panelists, to all your viewers. And I'm sure you'll give me the independence to make my point of view, because you've asked such a long question. And I concur with what the Honorable Prime Minister said. I'm completely on page. But beyond these 5 universal truths, there's a larger universal truth, which is to achieve these 5 universal truths. The larger universal truth will have to be achieved. We'll have to remove the BJP from power immediately. Because as long as BJP is there, the Achhe Din will never come. Because like you said, we have to regain the lost glory days which we lost in the last 8 years under Narendra Modi. Now let me speak with data, because I'm a man of science and data. Right, we have to
When
fight
did that happen? Dr. Anand Ranganathan? Has Tehseen Poonawalla now become the latest scientist in this country?
Well, I'll tell you since when I've been a man of science and data. I've been a man of science and data when the Honorable Prime Minister... Sure, but Amit Shah is also a farmer. Amit Shah is also a farmer. Just for the record. But let me come to the pertinent point. I've been a man of science and data since the Honorable Prime Minister gave you an interview, Navika ji. And in that interview, he said, and I quote the Honorable Prime Minister to you. He said that, there is no data for employment and unemployment. That is the state of our country, and the Prime Minister was misguiding and likely he got caught. So I've been a data scientist since then, but let me just give you some more science and data. Look, the Honorable Prime Minister said, let's go by each promise. Yeah, sure, but let me finish, then I'll give. The Honorable Prime Minister said we have to fight corruption. Nobody has a doubt about it. How will we fight corruption if his conviction rate is 0.5%? Conviction rate is gone lower. Please allow me to finish. Now, what does ADIA say? ADIA says the most corrupt people accused of dacoity are in the BJP, 83 MPs and MLAs. Fact check me.
Riju Datta has given those points, so you may skip those. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. Anything new that you have to say?
I'm adding, just allow me please, I've just started. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister said after demonetization, cash will disappear from the economy. RBI says cash has gone up 64%. The Honorable Prime Minister said those new 2,000 rupee notes will stop the fake notes. RBI data says 151% rise in fake notes. Prime Minister is fighting corruption. Now, let's come to the second data. Prime Minister says we have to fight those who have been accused of serious crimes. In the Prime Minister's cabinet, in his cabinet was Nihal Chand, accused of rape. He continued to be a minister. In the Prime Minister's cabinet, but the Prime Minister didn't remove it. Prime Minister didn't remove it. Prime Minister didn't take it.
Tehseen Poonawalla, the interview that you're referring to was 2.5 years ago. But I'm so glad you're such an avid watcher of Times Now that you remember that interview line by line, how much you concentrate on the words of the Prime Minister is heartening. And number 3, let me also tell you, you said the cash has been increasing. Well, a lot of that has been found in Bengal. Search is on for where else it can be found. So don't worry. If despite demo there is cash in the market, then you know where it is being hidden. And let me get in Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, you know why when it comes to the issue of corruption or issue of dynastic politics, do the Congress and the opposition leaders go so much on the defensive? Isn't it true? Isn't it true? And everybody, can see what's happening to politics in our country. Congress party start with the largest opposition party. It's a party of the Gandhis, for the Gandhis, by the Gandhis, and Nehrus, if you take history into account. Apart from that, if you look at Samajwadi Party, it is a party of the Yadavs, the Mulayam Singh Yadav Parivar. Now Akhilesh Yadav holds the roost. If you look at the Trinamool Congress, Bhai Bhatijawad, well, Mamata Banerjee, Abhishek Banerjee. Go down south, DMK, family party. Also TRS, family party. Jagan Reddy, family party. So where is the fault that the Prime Minister has made in the speech that he has made?
Good evening, thank you to all my panelists. First of all, wishing you and everyone else and all our viewers a very happy Independence Day. And can I please, if it is only to garner 1 extra minute from you, compliment you on your wonderful sari. It goes on to show that we Tamilians not only make the best Mysore parts, we make the best saris as well. So,
absolutely. No quarrel with that. Well, I'm also partial to Banaras, but never mind. And Orissa and Hyderabad. But go on.
Yes, no, Navika, you're right. Look, the Prime Minister, through his Red Fort speech, set the stage for what needs to be done by us, the Indians, in the next 25 years. And he is right on all counts, even setting as a well, to be sure, anyone would be, Navika. Because the easy thing to do is to talk on what needs to be done. The difficult thing to do is to implement it. Let us take the curse of dynasty, the two things we talked about, dynasty and corruption. Let's take the curse of dynasty that Modi talked about. 45 BJP MPs and more than 92 BJP MLAs have dynastic linkages. And the BJP defends that there are only one generation linkages, unlike the dendritic linkages in the Congress and regional parties is thin. Because even one generation dynasty linkage can endow nepotism, preferential, non-meritorious advantage and privilege, and can and does take away the opportunity for a non-dynasty candidate. Remember, in politics, first mover advantage is everything. Besides, this is a classic case of moral relativism trying to rationalize the hypocrisy. Yes, the Prime Minister is right on his commentary on corruption. But is his party free of corruption?
Even yes. On dynasty, may I interrupt you, Anand Ranganathan? Even on dynasty, how many of those family people are ministers? So if nepotism is bringing advantage, then you should also, look at that aspect.
Yes, Navika, there are many who are. I have a list with me. In fact, 2 months ago, I was invited by the BJP to take part and give a talk in an event, one-day event called Dynasty, a threat to democracy. And it was inaugurated by Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. And I started off by narrating all these facts, plus saying that it's ironical that Mr. Fadnavis is inaugurating an event and he himself is a first-generation dynast. So yes, there are many ministers who are. This is a problem that infects every political party. For the Prime Minister to say it doesn't, for not to admit that it is not the curse on the BJP is plain wrong. Now, can I please take a couple of minutes because the second issue is more important of corruption. With no permission, Navika. Can I please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. As I was saying, is his party free of corruption? Yes. He is personally not corrupt, perhaps incorruptible. But then what is corruption? Is it only to be judged in cash? Is it looking the other way also corruption? Modi said 8 years ago that the government has no business to be in business. But all what his government has done in the last 8 years is to be in the business of business. The largest, biggest, most debilitating resource-cutting corruption is government control and maintenance of public sector units. We have 1825 PSUs. Quarter of them are non-functional. A fifth of our annual budgetary allocation of 28 to 30 lakh crores goes in propping up PSUs except in India. There has been zero privatization. The PSUs that are sold are bought by other PSUs. Just last week, Modi injected 1.5 lakh crores into the loss-making behemoth BSNL, the new Air India. Is that not corruption? Nationalized banks are rife with corruption and have NPA totaling 6 lakh crores. Is that not corruption? Government control of temple land means 113,500 Hindu temples are deprived of lakhs of crores of yearly income. Is that not corruption? Average state debt to GSDP is 35% highest in 15 years. But every government, including the BJP, indulges in massive loan waivers and CDs. Is that not corruption? Agriculture contributes only 13% of our GDP, and yet 44% of our 485 million from labor force is involved in it. In the West, it is 2%. Production to purchase the entire thing is actually called medieval, and yet Modi receives the farm bills in turn helping the corrupt middlemen in destroying the honest farmer. Is that not corruption? Last now it's just 30 seconds, I beg of you. Accepting dozens of corrupt politicians from other parties into the BJP fold, inducting a Congress leader accused of child rape in Goa, drug peddling in Manipur, making a Congress leader in Karnataka facing 15 forest crime charges as the forest minister in the BJP government. Is that not corruption? उम्र भर मोदी यही भूल करता रहा, भूल चेहरे पे थी, आईना साफ करता रहा.
GVL Narasimha Rao, these are the people who actually support Prime Minister Modi, who also have problems with some of these policy initiatives and the lacunae that still exist.
A lot of what Anandji has mentioned has nothing to do with corruption. Giving what he calls freebies or some kind of a welfare schemes, I would certainly not consider it corruption. How can you, under what definition can you put that? And also we have ensured there is DBT, direct benefit transfer. So we have reduced delivery theft to the barest minimum, to near zero level. That is controlling corruption. That's not causing corruption. Then as regards dynasty, there is a huge difference that people do understand. BJP is not owned by one biological family, whereas most political parties in this country are literally owned by families, biological families as private family enterprises. That's a world of difference. Even there, you see, there has been a conscious effort in the last 8 years to reduce the number of dynasts being given tickets. Honorable, I'm just disclosing something to you. In the last UP assembly elections, Honorable Prime Minister told everyone, no dynast will be given ticket, don't even come and ask for it. I will take that decision, nobody else will. So I think that's the kind of an assertion. So I think there is a temptation on the part of every leader to bring in his family. But Prime Minister and the BJP together have decided that we will not let this culture prevail. But how can you compare us with the Samajwadi Party? How can you compare us with the Congress Party, which are owned by, how can you compare us with the Shiv Sena or any other party from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu? They are all family-owned enterprises. BJP is not. People understand this difference, however much you want to confuse them. So they do understand that BJP is a political party where individuals based on merit, we have had people, ordinary party workers being elevated to the ranks of Chief Minister. Prime Minister himself is not a dynast. He has not brought anybody from his family. Can you tell me any other corporator in this country? I challenge you. Can you tell me any one corporator in this country who has not tried to bring his family into politics? Prime Minister Narendra Modi's commitment is like that. He has not brought anybody from his family into any position of power. So people understand the difference between our leader, our party and other political parties.
Well, so Ghanshyam Tiwari.
10 seconds. Can I please rebut?
Okay, Anand Ranganathan.
Thank you. And thank you very much. Just a 10-second rebuttal to Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, a wonderful person, very erudite. You remember when he had demanded an ED raid and had written to the Rajya Sabha Ethics Committee alleging involvement of PDP Y.S. Chaudhary in, and I quote him, I'm quoting Mr. Rao, massive financial bungling and a fraud of 5,700 crores. And Mr. Rao sought his disqualification over court against serious breach of ethics. Can Mr. GVL Rao please tell me where is Mr. Y.S. Chaudhary now, in which party?
Yes, GVL, respond. Specific question, need a specific answer.
I will respond. I think it's very true. I have never withdrawn my complaint before the committee, and the ED inquiries that were underway have continued, and they have progressed. Please do please do inquire about the status of those inquiries. Nobody has been given a clean sheet. Anyone who has faced those inquiries,
how come you don't want to inquire about those?
Let me be very honest with you.
Well, GVL Narasimha Rao, you know, when it comes to getting people from other political parties to the BJP, when the political expediency arises, well, the BJP has been very, very open and not sticking to the standards that it sets. And today you're saying freebies are not bribes and that is not corruption. Well, just last week the Prime Minister was speaking in a different language. So GVL Narasimha Rao, some of these things, some of these things, you know, even the BJP will have to stop dishing out hypocritical points of view. It sounds very well on Independence Day, but the fact is that you have to revisit your own hypocrisies, just like other political parties need to revisit theirs. So Ghanshyam Tiwari, I want to ask you this question. You're an educated young person. Do you think you can ever aspire to be the chief of your party, the Samajwadi Party? I want to ask you because many people would want young, well-read, erudite people, smart people to lead political parties in this country. But is it possible?
Navika ji, greetings to you, my fellow co-panelists and every one of your viewers. Let us hope and with determination and self-belief work towards making India a developed country and a better nation for the future generation. As far as the Prime Minister's speech is concerned, and I'll come to your question. As far as the Prime Minister's speech is concerned, I must tell you that if you look at the Government of India website and you look at the speech of the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, 15th August 1947. Do you know how long was that speech? The Government of India website says it is a 4-page speech. So when you have a lot to tell and you can say that with honesty, patriotism and commitment, you don't require too many words. You don't require 90 minutes. The Prime Minister was a man of substance in his own words. Then he would, in 10 minutes today, would have said that 2014 I promised 2 crore jobs, here is the report card. I promised Kala Dhan Aayega, here is the report card. I promised that by 2022 farmer incomes will double, here's the report card. I promised by 2022 everybody will have a Pakka Ghar, here's the report card. I promised Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, here is the report card. The reality is today, the moment he said dynasty, Jai Shah started printing on Twitter. The moment you speak about corruption, take the financial capital of India, Mumbai. Look at the states around Mumbai, Goa, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat. Can you name any single state where BJP has not indulged in corruption towards their mad rush and blinded mission to form a government? One state, can JPL say that? The answer is no. So for Prime Minister, it is difficult for me on this day to admit that the Prime Minister's words are becoming hollower by the day. It is important for the nation, a Prime Minister is popular, his words should mean something, not just a good speech that could be played and tapped by GVL Narasimha Rao, but in reality can sound hollow. As far as your question is concerned, I think every one of us who believes in democracy, in the constitution, believes that in this country, when you work for the people, you can be whoever you want. When you joined Times of India, you did believe that one day you would lead this organization, notwithstanding the family that runs this organization. So I do not believe that anyone of us
let's not compare a professional setup with your political party, my friend. You know, there is a difference. The family that owns this group is not in the business of running the newspaper or the channels. They only provide the resources. It is the professionals, and this is exactly what I mean. Professionals run this institution called Times Now and Times of India and Times Now Navbharat and the other publications and channels that we have. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, I'm asking you, can you ever be the president of the Samajwadi Party? Yes or no? It's a simple. You don't have to go all over the media houses in the country. You only have to answer for yourself.
Why are you sensitive to a simple example? I'm saying a very simple thing.
I'm not sensitive, my dear friend, and I'm glad some of us are sensitive in this country 75 years after independence as well. We need to have some sensitivity.
I believe that every one of the panelists here and every citizen who's watching this show.
Can you be the Samajwadi Party chief, yes or no? You answer the question, sir.
Please allow me to answer.
Yes, please. It's a yes or no answer.
Every one of your viewers believe that in Indian democracy, you can be whoever you want. You can be the prime minister, you can be president, you can be chief minister. And no one
do you believe Ghanshyam Tiwari can be the president of Samajwadi Party?
No one here can dictate what you can.
No, Ghanshyam ji, please. Yeah. Now, Navika, Ghanshyam ji sure can be the president of Samajwadi Party, but वो bracket में बाद में Ghanshyam add करेंगे उसमें G, Samajwadi Party G. But in one sense, it's a GVN Nelson Rao. Gupta is absolutely right. We have 6 panelists out here, 3 of them on the lower panel. They can never dream to be the presidents of their party. Whereas, as Mr. GVN Nelson Rao said, Modi came from nowhere. He was a chai wala, self-admittedly, and he became the prime minister. Same with Mr. JP Nanda. So yes, there is dynasty in BJP as well, as I said. But it is not to as that gangrenous level as the other 3 parties in the lower panel whose representatives are on the
Mr. Abdul Basit of the RJD is joining us on the Newshour tonight. And Mr. Abdul Basit, आप बन सकते हैं? आप बन सकते हैं RJD के चीफ? आप बन सकते हैं RJD के अध्यक्ष?
देखिए, ये पार्टियों के मौलिक जो पार्टियों को आंदोलन के तहत ऐसे लाए हैं, जिनका पहला अधिकार जिस प्रकार कांग्रेस की सैक्रिफाइस नीतियों के लिए पूरा कांग्रेस परिवार ने आज तक त्याग दिया, उसी प्रकार से राहुल गांधी जी आज अध्यक्ष पद पर है या सोनिया गांधी जी अध्यक्ष पद पर। इसी प्रकार देखिए सब आंदोलन
बाकी लोग जो है उन्होंने कोई काम नहीं किया।
सारी पार्टियां आंदोलन के तहत आई है। लालू यादव जी का सैक्रिफाइस देश ने देखा है, उन्होंने इतना
लालू जी का सैक्रिफाइस देखा है, लेकिन डाउन द लाइन क्या बच्चों के लिए गारंटीड सीट है क्या?
और पार्टी के लिए बड़ा काम करते मैं भी देखो ऐसी बात नहीं, बट उसके लिए सैक्रिफाइस बहुत जरूरी है। उनका सैक्रिफाइस नोट कीजिए, गांधी परिवार के सैक्रिफाइस नोट कीजिए, हमारे आरजेडी के सैक्रिफाइस कितना टाइम कितना समय हमें जेलों में हमारे नेताओं को रखा गया, तो सैक्रिफाइस जो है वो बहुत बड़ी त्याग जो है देश के लिए। उसी प्रकार
तेजस्वी जी का क्या सैक्रिफाइस है देश को बता दीजिए।
बीजेपी में क्या है, जितना बड़ा पैसे वाला है,
Anand Ranganathan, can you compare Tejaswi Yadav sacrifices with Lalu Prasad Yadav sacrifices? Can you?
Yes, no, Tejaswi has sacrificed by not stealing Chara. Please admit that. So, but I also wanted to say one thing here for the nth time, Navika. ये जो कहते रहते हैं, Tehseen, I hope he agrees with me. I am talking only facts now. जो ये आरजेडी की रिप्रेजेंटेटिव भी रिस्पेक्टफुली कह रहे हैं कांग्रेस ने सैक्रिफाइस, ये जो कांग्रेस है आज की कांग्रेस, दिस इज नॉट द इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस सर, जिन्होंने देश को आजादी दिलाई। 1969 में इंदिरा गांधी वो थ्रोन आउट ऑफ
एक मिनट अब्दुल बासित साहब एक मिनट प्लीज स्टॉप स्पीकिंग ओवर ईच अदर। आप बोल चुके हैं, आपका फेडर लोअर कर रही हूँ। आनंद रंगनाथन raising a question to Tehseen. I'm coming to you, Riju Datta. I'm coming to you.
Yes, and I hope Tehseen on Independence Day will not lie. In 1969, the original Indian National Congress threw out Indira Gandhi. She formed Congress R standing for requisitionist. Congress R then was renamed to Congress I. It split. It did not rename it. It split. It formed, Indira Gandhi formed Congress I. Indira. Only in 1983 did the election commission say that yes, you can call the RNC. किस एंगल से ये स्वतंत्रता सेनानियों की पार्टी हो गई है? ये तो your legacy is Indira Gandhi. Tehseen, your legacy is emergency.
Well, Riju Datta wants to come in. I'm coming to you, Tehseen, but Riju Datta has been raising his hand since the beginning. Yes, Riju Datta, where is the problem of corruption?
Yes.
Should we not talk about it? Should we not talk about dynasties? And the dynastic parties are right here on this panel, from RJD to Samajwadi Party to Congress, now to Trinamool.
Right, okay. Navika ji, just give me the courtesy of time. First, I want to answer Dr. Anand Ranganathan. He presented fantastic facts today. Just one place where he went wrong is that Trinamool Congress is the only political party, apart from BJP in this entire country, where for the last 25 years, since the inception of the party, the president is Mr. Subrata Bokshi, who does not belong to any family. Number one point. Now, let me answer the Honorable Member of Parliament here. I am shocked, I am gobsmacked that the Honorable MP is either he is misinformed or he is trying to protect BJP or he has not done his homework before coming on a esteemed channel like Times Now. Let me tell him, he said that there are petty criminal cases and no charges of corruption. Sir, for your kind knowledge, for further reference, Shubhendu Adhikari and Hemanto Biswa Sharma, your Chief Minister of Assam, is mentioned in the ED and CBI charge sheet of the Sharoda scam. The Education Minister who was arrested in Madhya Pradesh, he has mentioned, and CBI has mentioned the name of Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan in their charge sheet for the Vyapam scam, sir. Now, coming to, I'll ask you one question, sir, Honorable MP. From 2014 to 2022,
but did you not
investigating agencies, name me, and I challenge this on Independence Day on Times Now, one BJP person that has been investigated, one BJP leader that has been investigated. Secondly, after Dr. Ranganathan clearly exposed the dynasty of BJP, you went to biological family. So let me expose the biological family of BJP. Rajnath Singh, Pankaj Singh, Kailash Vijayvargiya, Akash Vijayvargiya, Ved Prakash Goel, Piyush Goel, Mr. Fadnavis and his son Devendra Fadnavis, PK Dhumal, Anurag Thakur, Vasundhara Raje, Dushyant Singh. This is just 5-6 names I mentioned. So again, all in all, even though the Prime Minister's speech was fantastic, was encompassing all the issues of the country, but it is high time the Prime Minister introspect his own party, because जो शीशे के घर में रहते वो दूसरों पे पत्थर नहीं फेंका करते.
चलिए मैं आपकी बात मान भी लेती हूँ रिजू दत्ता जी, मैं आपकी बात मान लेती हूँ, पर फिर भी आपसे पूछती हूँ, क्या जो 5 प्रोमिसेस 5 प्रण प्रधानमंत्री ने लिए उसमें कुछ गलत है? और साथ में उन्होंने जो कहा कि we need to fight corruption and परिवारवाद, anything wrong in what he said? Should we as a country not aspire to go towards that? Yes or no?
I will give you a straightforward answer, Navika ji. Even if you say those 5 points, I will agree with you. I agree with the Prime Minister. I differ on one point, where he says every citizen of the country should do their duty. सबको अपना धर्म पालन करना चाहिए. सर, हम धर्म पालन करेंगे, बट देश की जनता ने वोट देके आपको चुना है. आपको याद दिला दे, बीजेपी का सबसे वरिष्ठ नेता, the most stalwart BJP politician I have ever known, Bharat Ratna Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, told you and taught you to do Raj Dharma.
Jeevan Narasimha Rao,
first you learn
last word, 30 seconds. I'm completely out of time. 30 seconds.
How will Anand get away by attacking the
from what I have heard from all the panelists of different parties, I think his speech has made a indelible impression and a deep impact even on the panelists, and I'm happy to note that. And certainly I expect Prime Minister is urging everyone to reform and transform the political landscape of this country. And when he talked about corruption, he did not name any party, but he did say there are political parties and leaders who have looted so much money, they don't have enough space to keep their loot, while poor people have no roof over their heads. So it clearly, I could only link it to the
India is a country of contrast, and the Prime Minister today called on this country not just to demand somebody else to work for them. He just said that each one of us as a citizen needs to make our own contribution. And India at 75 is a strong, resurgent, aspirational India. But the Prime Minister also said this is the beginning of the Amrit Kaal. And for the next 25 years, till we reach India at 100, we need to solve a few problems. Out of the 82-minute speech of the Prime Minister, possibly 2.5 or 3 minutes was spent on the issue of corruption and parivarvad. Why just these 3 minutes cause so much of rankling of the opposition? Well, it's a question we all must introspect about. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on the debate. On the other side, the best takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech from Red Fort this morning.
You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned. You're watching the News Hour at 9.
अब साथियों, मुझे लगता है आने वाले 25 साल के लिए हमें उस पंच प्राण पर अपनी शक्ति को केंद्रित करनी होगी, अपने संकल्पों को केंद्रित करना होगा, अपने सामर्थ्य को केंद्रित करना होगा और हमें उन पंच प्राण को लेकर के 2047 जब आजादी के 100 साल होंगे, आजादी के दीवानों के सारे सपने पूरे करने का जिम्मा उठा करके चलना होगा। जब मैं पंच प्राण की बात करता हूं तो पहला प्राण, अब देश बड़े संकल्प लेकर के ही चलेगा, बहुत बड़े संकल्प लेकर के चलना होगा और वो बड़ा संकल्प है विकसित भारत। अब उससे कुछ कम नहीं होना चाहिए, बड़ा संकल्प। दूसरा प्राण है किसी भी कोने में हमारे मन के भीतर, हमारे आदतों के भीतर गुलामी का एक भी अंश अगर भी अभी भी है तो उसको किसी भी हालत में बचने नहीं देना। तीसरी प्राण शक्ति, हमें हमारी विरासत पर गर्व होना चाहिए, हमारी विरासत के प्रति, क्योंकि यही विरासत है जिसने कभी भारत को स्वर्णिम काल दिया था और यही विरासत है जो समय को अनुकूल परिवर्तन करने की आदत रखती है, यही विरासत है जो काल बाह्य छोड़ती रही है, नित्य नूतन स्वीकारती रही है। और इसलिए इस विरासत के प्रति हमें गर्व होना चाहिए। चौथा प्राण, वो भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है और वो है एकता और एकजुटता। 130 करोड़ देशवासियों में एकता, न कोई अपना न कोई पराया। एकता की ताकत, एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के सपनों के लिए हमारा चौथा प्राण है। जब हम एकता की बात करते हैं, अगर हमारे एक ही पैरामीटर हो, एक ही मानदंड हो, जिस मानदंड को हम कहें इंडिया फर्स्ट, मैं जो कुछ भी कर रहा हूं, जो भी सोच रहा हूं, जो बोल रहा हूं, इंडिया फर्स्ट के अनुकूल है, एकता का रास्ता खुल जाएगा। दोस्त, हमें एकता से बांधने का वो मंत्र है, हमें इसको पकड़ना है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हम समाज के अंदर ऊंच नीच के भेदभावों से, मेरे तेरे के भेदभावों से हम सबकी पुजारी बने। श्रमेव जयते कहते हैं हम, श्रमिक का सम्मान, ये हमारा स्वभाव होना चाहिए। लेकिन भाइयों बहनों, मैं लाल किले से मेरी एक पीड़ा और कहना चाहता हूं। ये दर्द मैं कहे बिना नहीं रह सकता। मैं जानता हूं कि शायद लाल किले का विषय नहीं हो सकता है, लेकिन मेरे भीतर का दर्द मैं कहां कहूंगा, देशवासियों के सामने नहीं कहूंगा तो कहां कहूंगा। और वो है किसी न किसी कारण से हमारे अंदर एक ऐसी विकृति आई है, हमारी बोलचाल में, हमारे व्यवहार में, हमारे कुछ शब्दों में, हम नारी का अपमान करते हैं। क्या हम स्वभाव से, संस्कार से, रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में नारी को अपमानित करने वाली हर बात से मुक्ति का संकल्प ले सकते हैं? नारी का गौरव, राष्ट्र के सपने पूरे करने में बहुत बड़ी पूंजी बनने वाला है। ये सामर्थ्य मैं देख रहा हूं और इसलिए मैं इस बात का आग्रही हूं। और पांचवा प्राण है नागरिकों का कर्तव्य। नागरिकों का कर्तव्य जिसमें प्रधानमंत्री भी बाहर नहीं होता है, मुख्यमंत्री भी बाहर नहीं होता है, वो भी नागरिक है। नागरिकों का कर्तव्य, यह हमारे आने वाली 25 साल के सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी प्राण शक्ति है। जब संकल्प बड़े होते हैं तो पुरुषार्थ भी बहुत बड़ा होता है, शक्ति भी बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में जुट जाती है। अब कोई कल्पना कर सकता है कि देश 40-42 के कालखंड को याद कीजिए। देश उठ खड़ा हुआ था, किसी ने हाथ में झाड़ू लिया था, किसी ने तकली ली थी, किसी ने रेटिया लिया था, किसी ने सत्याग्रह का मार्ग चुना था, किसी ने संघर्ष का मार्ग चुना था, किसी ने क्रांति की वीरता का रास्ता चुना था। लेकिन संकल्प बड़ा था आजादी, और ताकत देखिए, बड़ा संकल्प था तो आजादी लेके रहे। हम आजाद हो गए। अगर संकल्प छोटा होता, सीमित होता, तो शायद आज भी संघर्ष करने के दिन चालू रहते। लेकिन संकल्प बड़ा था तो हमने हासिल भी किया। मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, अब आज जब अमृत काल की पहली प्रभात है तो हमें इस 25 साल में विकसित भारत बना के रहना है अपनी आंखों के सामने। और जो 20, 22, 25 साल के नौजवान मेरे देश के मेरे सामने है, मेरे देश के नौजवानों, जब देश आजादी के 100 साल मनाएगा तब आप 50-55 के हुए होंगे। मतलब आपके जीवन का ये स्वर्णिम काल, आपकी उम्र के ये 25-30 साल भारत के सपनों को पूरा करने का काल है।
You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
There will have to be bilateral agreement with whoever we want. There's too much of politics involved for there to be a regional trade agreement in South Asia.
We are aware of reports of a proposed visit by this vessel, Camber to port in August. Let me just say the government carefully monitors any development having a bearing on India's security and economic interests.
and takes all necessary measures to safeguard them.
You're watching the Newshour Agenda, India's most loved primetime show at 10. I'm Padmaja Joshi, and here's wishing all of our countrymen and women a very, very happy Independence Day. Hope you had a great day. But what is our country thinking on this day? If elections were to be held right now, who would be Prime Minister? India ke dil mein kya hai? What is the state of our country? What is the quality of our life in our country? The quality of our freedoms? Joining us on the show in the next few minutes will be politicians and commentators from across the spectrum. But let's get straight to the number one question on everyone's mind. If the elections were to happen right now, who would India vote for? That is question number one. What would be the results of that election? And here is what the Times Now PMark survey says. BJP would be at 292 to 312, BJP plus, that is BJP with its alliance partner or partners. YSRCP would be at 17 to 23. The Congress would be at 118 to 138. The Aam Aadmi Party would be at 8 to 12. The Trinamool Congress would marginally better its performance at 27 to 31. And the TRS would be at 6 to 10. But important thing here is the growth in the Indian National Congress, the YSRCP and the Trinamool Congress, all of them. And this is Congress plus, so Congress and its allies. Let's go straight across. These are the findings of our poll and the first question. Let me also quickly take the second question before we throw it open for our panel. The second question that we asked people is, who will be the Prime Minister's principal challenger in 2024? And it seems the people are quite clear in their mind that while there are very strong regional contenders trying to be national players, the Congress still remains to their mind the main challenger as a party to the BJP. So total 33% chunk here, because 22% is with Rahul Gandhi, 11% is with Priyanka Gandhi. So 33% here, 1/3 of the people surveyed think the Congress face will be the major challenger. Arvind Kejriwal is a close second at 19. Mamata Banerjee is at 13%. They are still open to others at about 31%. KCR is trying to cobble together a national coalition, but not too many people have bought that idea just as yet. But then to be fair, KCR is yet to launch any major campaign. Opening it up now and going back to the first question again. Joining us on the Newshour, we have Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of BJP, Tushar Gupta, Senior Editor Swaraj, Sanjay Jha, Author, Zeba Yasmin, Spokesperson Samajwadi Party, Ashutosh, Political Analyst. Yes, the numbers still show you forming a government, Sanju Verma. But what's this Congress story? Congress Mukt Bharat se ye to Congress ne almost double kar liya apne number.
Padmaja, I first and foremost want to wish you, the other panelists and everybody out there watching this show, we are celebrating our 76th Independence Day, and it's been 75 glorious years in more ways than one. Coming to your specific question, I just want to lay down a couple of facts. I think what your survey is showing at this point in time, if I just juxtapose the various numbers and try to, come out with a sensible conclusion. A, Prime Minister Narendra Modi by far continues to be the most popular leader with absolutely no competition. I mean, 22% people want to see Rahul Gandhi, and 19% as Arvind Kejriwal, 13% as want to see Mamata Banerjee as Prime Minister. I mean, the long and short of it is that basically there is no alternative. The Tina factor for Narendra Modi continues despite the fact that he will complete 10 years as Prime Minister in 2024. The other important thing is that, look at the BJP's number crunching. After 303 in 2019, to have a number in the range of 292 to 312, which is BJP plus, I think that speaks volumes about the fact that when we say that, good governance under the Modi government is something that is based on deliverables, it is not merely based on rhetoric. We walk the talk. I think, this is what your survey is showing, that Modi government has married two important things: structural reforms in the economy with welfareism. And I think that is what the survey currently endorses.
Okay, you are looking at the glass as 3/4 full, but I want to again take you back to my initial question. The Congress again seems to be tripling the number of seats that they have right now, and we are still 2 years away from the elections.
Padmaja, the Congress hobbled together some 44 odd seats in 2014 and then some 52 odd seats in Lok Sabha 2019. So, without wanting to sound too critical, the fact is that this number of 118 or 138 which you put out, let's not also forget that they have to their advantage an extremely low base. They have to their advantage the fact that, they are the underdog, and Indian audiences love the underdog. That is why I said, despite being 10 years in power, which we will complete, at the center in 2024, if the BJP is still emerging with a clean and comfortable majority as the single largest party, that speaks volumes about what we've done on the ground.
Okay, 8 years, still the single largest party. Things can only get better from here, Sanjay Jha, and this on the back of 3 years of a pandemic. Still 300 plus.
Well, Padmaja, let me hold, and it's very distressing for the opposition, particularly the Congress. I do agree with Sanjeev Verma that, the Congress has a lower base, and yes, as an underdog, you get a certain tailwind occasionally, but it'll be distressing for anyone who follows the Congress or who believes in the secular liberal idea of India, and everyone expects the Congress to really, carry the baton forward. I mean, they will be very disappointed with the fact that the public still doesn't seem to have the kind of confidence that they should in what has been called as India's grand old party. And the reason why I mention that is, while Mr. Modi might still be the front runner and the BJP still looks in pole position, I do believe that on pure performance, they don't deserve it. And I think this is a very poor commentary on the opposition. I mean, I think the COVID, despite all the hype that the government does, was terribly mismanaged. We will never forget the nightmare of the second COVID wave, record unemployment. You have had serious issues in terms of
quickly come in and say,
social
Mr. Jha, you forget to mention that the largest COVID fatalities and infections came from a state that you live in, where a party that you support was in power, which is the state of Maharashtra.
Padmaja, let me just clarify that position. We all know that Mumbai is India's international gateway to the world. It was always more susceptible to an import of the infection.
And similarly, Uttar Pradesh is the gateway to most of the labor that works across the country.
Yeah, but if you look at the population density per square kilometer, whatever parameter you take, Mumbai is always vulnerable to a rapid escalation of infection. But the larger issue that I want to point out here, and let me be very blunt, if after 3 years, after losing two general elections,
the spread of COVID wasn't just in Mumbai; it was in other parts of Maharashtra as well. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I don't want to debate COVID here, but I do want to tell you this, that for the Congress not to have a leader, hopefully they will have one in September, it has sent a very wrong message.
Well,
and
hope springs eternal as always. We've been waiting. 10 seconds, Sanjeev Verma rebuttal, then I'll bring in Ashutosh. Yes.
Padmaja, I think, I will just quickly rebut specifically to COVID, though this is not a debate on COVID. Let's not forget that nobody in the opposition gave the Modi government even a half a chance of vaccinating its entire adult population in barely 18 odd months. Today we have cumulatively administered 208 crore doses. Our daily and weekly positivity rates are less than 5% each. Okay. More than 88 crore tests have been conducted. And as Padmaja, you rightly mentioned, highest COVID fatalities Maharashtra, highest COVID vaccine wastage Rajasthan, again a Congress-ruled state, and highest COVID hesitancy again in Chhattisgarh, a Congress-ruled state where I remember Bhupesh Baghel also said like Akhilesh Yadav, ये तो बीजेपी की वैक्सीन है मैं नहीं लगाऊंगा. Okay. So let's not even go that road because we've done a phenomenal job in terms of world's largest and fastest vaccination drive being brought to fruition by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Okay, so let's quickly take this around the table then. What do you, Ashutosh ji, make of these figures where Congress has a slightly better performance? But do you think this shows us that the opposition should now rally behind the Congress? If 33% people see a principal challenger to Mr. Modi from the Congress, then can parties like Aam Aadmi Party, TMC stop pulling in different directions and just say, listen, national party to ek hi hai, Congress, let's just throw our weight behind them. Will that happen?
Padmaja, just 30 seconds for the COVID. If you remember, the Supreme Court had to ask central government, what is your national policy on the COVID and the vaccine? On record. Government did not wake up. Supreme Court again at the end of the May said that smell the coffee. If you remember that. So today, government can take the credit for that. But Supreme Court should also get the credit for nudging the government and highlighting the failure of the government. That government did not have the national policy on the COVID.
Okay,
let's forget it.
Yes, please let's forget it because we have debated this ad nauseum, and in retrospect, let me quickly also add that when the Prime Minister 2 days ago spoke about India's response to COVID, he said that it could not have happened without the state's participation. So nobody is taking credit for it happening. He himself said, अगर राज्यों ने नहीं किया होता, तो ये नहीं हो पाता. But what do you make of the question about everyone rallying behind Congress and saying, let them only fight?
Frankly speaking, I still do not see that whether the opposition political parties are rallying behind the Congress party. There is still a lot of fragmentation in the anti-BJP camp. There is still Arvind Kejriwal, there is Mamata Banerjee, there is the KCR, and these three pointedly have shown the inclination not to align or stand with the Congress.
No, but I'm asking you, should they? These results should give them a direction, right? That in the eyes of a normal person, a regular person, the main challenger is a Congress person. Nobody sitting in Bahraich is going to say, let me give a chance to KCR.
No. But the contest will happen in the different states. So unless all the opposition parties come together and then try to challenge the BJP, then there is a hope for the Congress party. Why I'm talking about for these figures? Because this figure should be very, very disappointing for the BJP itself. If you look at the figure, 292, I do not know that whether the BJP had crossed 272 on its own in this poll or not. Because what figures are showing is 292 and 312. That's a NDA figure. Why I'm saying so? Because you take the three states, Bihar, 40 seats, 48 seats in Maharashtra, and Mamata Banerjee, 42 seats in Bengal. Out of the 40 seats, today 16 has gone with the Nitish Kumar. Among the 48 seats, with the Shiv Sena 118 and the BJP 123, 18 is out from the BJP kitty. So for 18 plus 16, this comes to 34. And if you remove these 34 because BJP had aligned with these two political parties and contested, obviously BJP got benefited by being associating with these political parties, and the BJP realized its mistake in Bihar because in 2019 it has surrendered 5 seats which it had won in 2014. So BJP realized its weakness in Bihar. So if you remove these 34 seats and the seats with the BJP won in association with them, then it's a signal for the BJP that it might be difficult for them to get majority numbers in 272 in 2024. And if they don't get majority numbers, the way all the alliance partners had left BJP in the last 3-4 years, it will be difficult to get support from other political parties and form the government.
Okay, what do you make of this math, Sanju Verma?
You know, Ashutosh has thrown up some interesting analysis, but I will just say one thing which I always repeat ad nauseum for anyone who cares to hear. In politics, 2 plus 2 is never 4. You know, 2 plus 2 could well be 22 because there is a force multiplier. There is that X factor that Narendra Modi brings to the table, which a combined opposition cannot bring because of its lack of credibility, point number one. And while Ashutosh has very conveniently said that BJP might be on a soft wicket because of what happened in Bihar recently, he forgets that BJP will make significant gains in southern India. Please don't forget, for the first time in the longest time, we have a BJP-led coalition in power in Puducherry. We've done phenomenally well in Tamil Nadu in terms of at least vote share, if not number of seats, in the recently concluded assembly polls. And you forget Telangana because, you know, the TRS seems to be, making quite a dent. So let me tell you, in Telangana, can you imagine, we actually defeated, the TRS in its home ground of Dubakka. We won the Dubakka Assembly bypoll in 2020, and we followed that up with winning the Huzurabad bypoll.
Okay, how many will you get in Telangana? You have 4.
No, I will not. I'm just saying that in southern India, be it Tamil Nadu, be it, Telangana, be it consolidating against Karnataka, this is going to be one region which nobody is giving BJP credit for, and this would bring a few pleasant surprises for the BJP.
So what they lost in terms of allies, they will get from South India. Ashutosh.
See, they will. I have good wishes for them. If they get 10 seats in Tamil Nadu and 20 seats in Kerala and another 20 seats in Tamil Nadu, in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, good wishes. I will be more than happy for that. But the point is, in 2015, when the assembly election happened and the BJP contested on its own, BJP got only 55 seats. BJP was third in the pecking order. Don't forget. That's what I'm saying. Bihar is a weak ground for the BJP. Secondly, West Bengal. In 2019, BJP did phenomenally well, 18 seats out of 42. But in subsequent assembly elections, Mamata Banerjee, the way she had crossed the 200 numbers, which was baffling for all of us. So in West Bengal, there's all possibility that BJP might lose substantially in Bengal also. If that happens, then you can understand whether BJP will be in 2024. Though I agree with Sanju Verma that the politics is not 2 plus 2 is 4. Politics is 2 plus 2 is 5. But then what I am saying is, by that logic, BJP can come down to 250 and the less, because I am not counting 2 plus 2 is 4.
But again, taking this analogy forward and coming to you, Zeba Yasmin now, the problem is that this 2 plus 2 can be 22 or can be 4 if the opposition figures out its strategy. If you are undercutting each other, तो BJP का 2 plus 2 22 हो जाता है. Again, I am going to ask you, is it more sensible now for the opposition to read the writing on the wall and agree that you have to fight together? Ashutosh is right in saying that each of these parties fight individually in the states. But in the states, you are fighting each other and undercutting each other. Zeba Yasmin.
Yeah, Padmaja, I agree with Ashutosh what he's saying. Ashutosh ji, he's saying that the opposition should unite, and this is the only formula how we can, defeat BJP. As a representative of Samajwadi Party, I would like to talk about Uttar Pradesh. If we talk about 2022 elections, BJP has come down on the numbers. Samajwadi Party has won more, whatever we had, we got more than double. And the vote percentage, if you talk, we have, tremendously, increased on it. So what we are planning is, we are going to perform well in 2024. We have strategies and we are working on our Sangathan as well. So we are going to, have a good competition with BJP in 2024. Plans, Padmaja, we have many, see, as Abhi Sanju ji was saying that, Modi charm is still there. How long are you going to encash the face? When we talk about the report card, they lag behind in many factors. If we talk about inflation, if we talk about unemployment, whatever commitments has been given by Lal Killa only, if we talk about the last, speech of PM Modi ji, if you compare 5 years, what has happened? What about 2 crore jobs? What about the Doguni Aay of Kisan? What about inflation?
You mentioned that because if we have mapped what the key deliverables were between 2014 and 2019 and how the beneficiaries have grown in percentage. Whether it be about electrification, whether it be about sanitation, it has grown. So data spells out that all of these key indices, there has been progress made. But again, I want to ask you, when you fight in Uttar Pradesh, the Samajwadi Party, will you fight with the Congress, with the RLD together, or will you all be fighting the BJP separately, given what you see in these numbers?
Padmaja, we have still long way to go. We'll decide. RLD is with us and Congress. That depends what kind of conditions are put. Yeah, okay. We are there. We are ready. As Akhilesh Yadav ji, the chief, head of the party, he said that we are ready to unite, and he is not wanting, as many channels were, showing that he wants to. You say that you are ready to unite, although the buzz has it that your current alliance with the RLD is also not very comfortable after Mr. Jayant Chaudhary felt let down in his Rajya Sabha pitch. So anyhow, is there a chance of coming together? Now let's move to the other issue, which is very, very important. On Independence Day, the independence of people in India and what they think of the state of free speech. Now we asked 4-5 questions on this theme and the results are very telling. The first question we asked is freedom of speech endangered in India? 24% only said yes, 67% said no. So for everyone who is saying that there is a Hitler Shahi, there is dictatorship, there is misuse of agencies, dissent is being shut down, UAPA is being misused, PMLA is being misused, well, 67% people say that freedom of speech is alive and kicking in India. The second question we asked, is India becoming a Hindu Rashtra? 47% have resoundingly said no. 21% said can't say, but people are quite secure in the knowledge that there is no Hindu Rashtra being brought into the country. Also, we asked the people, what is your view on the slogan Sabka Saath? 34% said it's an earnest attempt by NDA to foster inclusiveness. Mainly an empty slogan for cameras is 28%. 24% were not aware of this slogan. First thoughts, Tushar Gupta. Free speech, alive and well.
Absolutely. See, we can sit on prime time and criticize the Prime Minister, the NDA government, their policies, their ideas, the implementation. I think there is not a problem of free speech. There was never one. Of course, the opposition would want us to believe that there is a problem of free speech, but there is none. But coming to the greater result of the survey, Padmaja, there are 3 M's that we need to consider: the maths, the merit, and the masses. The first is the maths. Now, if the Congress has to unite the opposition, they have to put forward a face. My simple question is, would Nitish Kumar, Mamta Banerjee, Akhilesh Yadav, or Arvind Kejriwal give that space to Rahul Gandhi as the national leader? They won't. So at the end of the day, they will undercut each other within the states, and who gains at the expense of it? The BJP. The second point is the merit. Now, we can debate COVID as much as we want to, but the end result is that when the elections happened in March 2022, BJP won 4 out of the 5 states. Arvind Kejriwal won the Punjab state. Coming to the final M, the masses. See, when the election season kicks in 6 months before 2024, there would be a strong factor of who appeals to the masses. And as much as I may disagree with Sanjay Jha on a lot of issues, I think he is commendable when it comes to being that one leader from the Congress who acknowledges the leadership problem within the party. So where is that mass factor? Where is that going to come from the opposition? Nitish Kumar or Mamta Banerjee or Akhilesh Yadav cannot appeal to the masses of the country like Narendra Modi can. So the 3 M's are going against the opposition, and I would believe that the numbers look really conservative for the NDA right now. I would expect them to be in the range of anywhere between 330 to 350 as time comes. Also, Padmaja, one very important point. The survey must have had a hangover of inflation. Though the inflation was not as high as it was in the final months of the Congress regime, but it was significantly high to pester people, to trouble people, and that would also have weighed into your results. By 2024, it would be important to look where the inflation is, because that would be one big driving factor when people go to the vote bank. So all in all,
how do you
the Prime Minister looks pretty secure for a third term. Free speech is not a problem.
How do you see the country's finances getting better?
The inflation is getting better, Padmaja. Padmaja, look, we are already having an honest conversation between freebies and welfare. We are already having an honest conversation between the state deficit, the state budgets, how they are being spent. So the economy, one, it has to be moving on fast on reforms. The government can no longer sit on reforms. They have to move forward. They have the mandate for it in the last 18 months of the regime. Number two, inflation will come down. See, a large part of the inflation was driven by the external factors, which was related to the crude prices. That is now coming down. What the government needs to ensure that if there is a global slowdown in the next 18 months, how do they immune the country's growth? How do they immune it from the external investments going out? How do they immune it from the foreign institutional outflows going out? So all those factors would be important. But mainly, it would be inflation. If the people feel that their wallets are being hit hard, they might want to change their minds. But I believe that the inflation will come down. It's already starting to come down across the board. So that would be
such
one
is the
big
freedom
factor.
of speech in
But
our
all in
country
all,
that Tushar
as
Gupta
per
can
my
sit on TV
calculation-
and acknowledge that inflation was a problem, but we are addressing it.
Oh, well, Padmaja, two very quick points. Number one, as far as the inflation is concerned, yes, there is no denying that it has got a lot to do with the external economic catastrophe that has happened after the Ukraine war, especially when it comes to, the supply chain disruptions and the rise in oil prices. Having said that, I mean, the truth is, India remains very, very vulnerable to, these kind of jolts and shocks. And when you have 350 million people living below the poverty line, then it's a double whammy for them to be actually paying higher prices because, for them to pay 1 liter, the price of 1 liter of petrol or diesel or cylinder goes up. It consumes a huge part of their household budget. Right. But I want to give you one interesting twist to your conversation, to the Tina factor. There is also something called as a Nita factor. And I'll tell you what a Nita factor is here. Is numerous individuals the alternative? NITA, Nita factor, and it's got nothing to do with the Ambani family. My major point here is that there is Arvind Kejriwal, there could be a Rahul or a Priyanka Gandhi. I hope it could be a Sachin pilot. There is definitely Mamta is, a very aggressive aspirant for the job. And I think Nitish Kumar now could appear to be another viable proposition.
So you can
but
have
I
a
think
Nita
the larger
factor.
point when I
You can
disagree
have
with
a
my
Nita factor, but there needs
colleague
to be
from the
only
Samajwadi
one
Party,
Neta in that
or even
Neta, right?
Ashutosh,
Who will be
is
the
that
Neta
after
of
10
this
years,
Neta?
if the BJP
Everyone
is
is a
still
Neta.
so far ahead of the pack,
If you are, for example, fighting an election in Andhra Pradesh, everyone has to say we will fight together against BJP. If you are fighting in Telangana, you will say we are all fighting together against the BJP. You can't have TRS fighting one, Congress cutting away at TRS vote, Samajwadi Party cutting away at Congress vote. That can't happen. Who's the Neta in the Neta? Sanjay Jha.
Padmaja, my simple question is, why would any regional leader recede the space to Rahul Gandhi? Why would any regional leader, be it a Mamata Banerjee or someone down south or Arvind Kejriwal in Punjab, recede the space to Rahul Gandhi? Why would they do that? Why would they announce their own political suicide when they know Rahul Gandhi cannot win against Narendra Modi?
Okay, now let me make the point, but not finish, which is that for the opposition and particularly the Congress, because I agree with your finding that the Congress has to be the fulcrum or the whole linchpin of a opposition fight back. But I will agree here. I mean, I can't deny, I'll have to agree with Sanju Verma that if after 10 years the BJP still has such a formidable lead, that it can form a government with even one or two alliance partners when most of them have deserted the BJP is a very sorry commentary. And I tend to be more conservative when it comes to these projections.
Okay.
Many people from the opposition will say,
I really want to move on to the whole freedom of speech argument that we had. Yes, Sanju Verma.
Padmaja, I will not take too long. I'll just quickly say one thing. Let's be very honest that, Uttar Pradesh is the central fulcrum around which even the Lok Sabha elections will revolve. It was the case in 2014 and 19. It will be the case in 2024. And while in UP, BJP standalone got 255 and BJP plus allies got 273. I want to draw your attention and the attention of your viewers to the fact that despite losing in 57 seats in Uttar Pradesh in 2022, BJP not only emerged as the single largest party, but we actually increased our vote share to 41.3%, which is the highest that any party has ever got after the 1977 elections when the Janata Party had secured 47.8%. And also, quickly, I will just tell you, in Uttarakhand if you look at it, our closest competitor was Congress. People said for the first time in 27 years, if BJP comes back again, it will be a miracle. But BJP cannot pull that. There have been too many changes with respect to chief ministerial candidates. Congress has a bloody good chance of coming back. And what is the vote share difference? BJP's vote share was 44.3%. Congress's was 37.3%. The vote share difference was not much, but BJP managed in Uttarakhand to win 47 seats. Okay. And Congress, despite the advantage of, having been the underdog for so long, managed to win only 19 seats. My point cannot convert vote share into seats. It has lost the ability to convert vote share into winnable number of seats.
It seems that we are really unable to get beyond this whole who will be the challenger. Very quickly, Ashutosh, and then Tushar Gupta. Ashutosh, yes.
See, this logic of first post pass system is such that even if a drop of 2% vote share, the seats can drop drastically. And why I was focusing on Maharashtra, Bengal and Bihar, because all three states comprised of 130 seats. BJP got 98 seats. Out of the 98 seats, BJP and alliances got 98 seats. If you remove alliances, it is reduced to 63 seats. If this 63 seats, BJP goes alone in 3 states, opposition is united without having a national alliance at the center, they can still reduce BJP to 40 or 38 or 35.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. And within the first post pass system, if you got only 2% drop share, that will be.
But that's the problem. They are not united. We still, if anything, they are getting more fragmented.
Padmaja, do not forget in 2004, opposition was disunited. Nobody had predicted that Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Advani's combined.
Those were different times, Ashutosh ji. Those were very different times.
People predicted a huge government by Bihari Vajpayee. But what happened in 2004? BJP was reduced to 138, Congress 145. Congress formed the government along with the other allies for the 10 years.
Tushar.
Where 130? Padmaja, after 20 years, even the cricket records are not relevant. These are political records we are talking about. But one simple point. Sanjay Jha made the point about Neeta factor. I am saying the Congress is not winning elections. Arvind Kejriwal is not that big a leader outside Punjab and Delhi, and he's not been able to challenge BJP in Delhi in the Lok Sabha elections. In Punjab, he'll face a backlash from the Akalis, from Captain Amrinder Singh, and whatever is left of the Congress. Akhilesh and Nitish cannot get cast votes outside their state, and Mamata Banerjee failed when it came to Goa elections in March 2022. So even if you were to say that these opposition were distributed in their fight against the BJP, they are not working outside their states. It's not that simple that the leaders stand up, then they'll be able to challenge the BJP. Beyond their loyal voter base, they have not been able to prove their political mettle. That's my simple point.
Ashutosh.
That's my point. If these leaders, they focus in their own state, save their own turf, BJP is in trouble. In Bihar, if RJD and JDU, they focus only in Bihar, Mamata Banerjee only focuses in West Bengal.
Then how will the Congress get the votes,
Let me ask a simple question.
Sanju Verma has a question for you, yes.
Then how the Congress will get the votes if the regional leaders are not receding the space?
Sanju Verma.
Yeah. Ashutosh, I just want to ask you, please be very honest about this. We are having a brilliant debate. I remember you were on some debates with me prior to results being declared for Uttar Pradesh elections a few months back. And you said Samajwadi Party has tied up with RLD or Sare Yadav votes. The consolidation will happen for Samajwadi Party or jitne Jat votes hain. Jat votes will consolidate behind RLD. And Yadav plus Jat is a formidable combination. Then tell me, why is it that UP elections mein Samajwadi Party was reduced to just 111 seats and the RLD was reduced to just 8 seats? Together, they could not even manage 120 seats. They were reduced to 119 seats.
I can understand what Sanju Verma is saying. And I also said, let me correct her. I also said that the Samajwadi Party has an edge over BJP. That's how it. I don't go back to my word. The fact is, Samajwadi Party and its alliance has increased its vote share by more than 10%. In the first post pass system, if this had cost to another 2%, BJP would have much less number of seats. Samajwadi Party would have got more
But sir,
number
here's
of
the
seats.
thing, there is a critical thing that you are not addressing. The argument is you're saying, okay, Mamta should concentrate on West Bengal. Fine, Mamta Banerjee will concentrate in West Bengal, but there will be the Congress chipping away at her vote share and the number of seats that she may win. KCR will concentrate on Telangana, but the Congress will be chipping away there. Maybe some Aam Aadmi Party will jump in, some other party will jump in.
Then why will they come together? No, if they're concentrating on their own regions, how will they come together, sir? Ashutosh, if they're concentrating on their own regions, how do they create a national alliance? Who is the leader then of that alliance? Why would Mamta Banerjee say, okay, Akhilesh Yadav can be the face of the opposition? Why would she recede the political space? That is the confusion.
And not just that, Sanjay Jha, let's face it, since 2014 we have seen a new phenomenon where people, even at the regional level, I might be sitting in Tamil Nadu, or a better example is I might be sitting in Maharashtra or Telangana, but I want to know who is my PM candidate. There has to be a face, because the BJP is very clear that Mr. Modi is the person you are voting for, not your local candidate. You are voting to make him the Prime Minister. Now nobody wants a situation where you have some khichdi sarkar and you don't know who their leader is.
Yeah, Padmaja, let me tell you what has changed after 2014. I call it the nationalization of politics. Let me tell you what I mean by the nationalization of politics. If you look at every state election, it is Prime Minister Mr. Modi who lands up and literally changes the winds at every time he makes an appearance there or does an aggressive campaign. What has happened over the last 10 years, and this is what Ashutosh will also need to factor in, why is it that the Modi factor makes a big impact in the Lok Sabha election and now even in the state elections? Because the BJP has been able to bring up issues. Now if you look at nationalism or communalism, or dynasty politics or corruption. Now these are emotive subjects and they have larger ramifications. So I think the Indian election has changed. It's not just become more presidential, but the political narrative now by the voter is being influenced by what is also happening at the national level. So you remember we used to discuss maybe 5 to 10 years ago that local issues, bread and butter, bijli, sarak, pani, roti, kapda, makan will dominate local elections. It's not happening anymore. And that's what gives the BJP a huge
everyone wants to respond to you, but I think it's fair to get Zeba Yasmin on this as well. Zeba Yasmin, BJP के जो प्रधानमंत्री हैं, उनका local effect भी है. Okay, Tushar, okay, yes, you go first. Go, Tushar.
No, see, to add to that, there is also the aspirational factor. 10 years ago, we were talking about roti, kapda, makan. Now these people have toilets, houses, gas connections, tap water connections. They have the food grains to last them through the pandemic. They are now looking at the national issues. They are looking at the aspirational society, as the Prime Minister pointed out. So, of course, there is the third aim, which I call the masses factor. Narendra Modi is one leader who appeals to everyone, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Arunachal to Gujarat. Can we say that about any other leader? That's the big factor.
Can you say it about Akhilesh Yadav? Yasmin, क्या आप अखिलेश जी के बारे में ये बोल सकते हैं? मोदी जी का लोकल अपील है, क्या अखिलेश जी की नेशनल अपील है?
पद्मजा, हमें ये भी नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि लोकल इश्यूज क्या हैं. I would like to remind Tushar, as Tushar is talking about creamy, things only about the dish. Why don't you see the actual position? Roti, kapda, makan issue है और issue रहेगा. Inflation इसका level जो है, every middle class is suffering. Pandemic के बाद जो effect हुआ है business में, job में, nobody can forget. And let's wait. We have 2 years.
अरे पर उसी रोटी कपड़े मकान के बेसिस पे ही बीजेपी को वोट मिल गया मैम.
ऐसा नहीं है कि PM मोदी. तो उसी
मैडम आपकी बात से मैं एग्री भी करूं. 2022
जिन इश्यूज पे भाजपा आई थी उसी इश्यूज पे जाएगी.
बाहर क्यों जाएगी? अगर
ऐसा कभी नहीं होता कि पार्टी आती है और जाती नहीं है. उन्हीं मुद्दों पे पार्टी आती है, उन्हीं मुद्दों पे पार्टी जाती है.
नहीं, वो आपकी बात सही है, वही बात आपकी सही है, पर मैं आपको ये कह रहा हूं कि मार्च 2022 में जिस रोटी कपड़ा मकान की आप बात कर रही हैं, आप लोकल इश्यूज की बात कर रही हैं, उसी लोकल इशू जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर था उत्तर प्रदेश में, उसी के बेसिस पे महिला वोटर ने भाजपा का साथ दिया। आप कह रही है रोटी कपड़ा मकान, औरतें बाहर आई, उन्होंने कहा कि हमें 2 साल फूड ग्रेन्स मिले, हमने इसलिए भाजपा को वोट किया। तो है, तो आप खुद को ही कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट कर रही हैं।
Padmaja, okay. You know now, Padmaja, I will be very quick. I just want to say.
No, but 2022 में तुषार आप वोट बैंक से देखिए, वोट परसेंटेज समाजवादी पार्टी का इन्हीं मुद्दों पे इंक्रीज हुआ है।
मैम, वोट परसेंटेज से सरकार नहीं बनती ना। आप ये सोच के खुश नहीं हो सकती कि 2024 में हमारा 10% वोट परसेंट बढ़ जाएगा, बट हमारी सीटें कम आएंगी। We're talking about who formed the government. संजू वर्मा।
हाँ, Padmaja, first of all, quickly, वोट परसेंटेज की बात होती है तो समाजवादी पार्टी की जो हाल ही में असेंबली इलेक्शन पे थे, यूपी में 32% वोट शेयर था। 32% वोट शेयर के बावजूद आपको सिर्फ 111 सीटें मिली, जबकि आपको 170 से 180 सीटें मिली चाहिए थी। तो इसीलिए यहाँ बैठकर वोट शेयर के बारे में मत बोलिए। I will just say one thing. 2024 is again going to be a Narendra Modi-led BJP government coming back to power because when we say सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, सबका प्रयास, people laugh at us, they mock us, they sneer at us. But the fact is, don't forget that 81 crore people every month are being given free ration during COVID times. In Uttar Pradesh alone, 15 crore people. And as Tushar mentioned, inflation, retail inflation was 7.79% in April this year. It has come down in July to 6.71%. And core inflation is down even more to barely 6%, with the RBI aggressively hiking repo rates to cut out excess liquidity. The RBI has an internal target of 5% inflation by June 2023. I think we will reach 5% by December 2022 or Jan 2023.
Okay, Ashutosh has a response on that.
Ashutosh. Inflation will cease to be a factor.
Ashutosh has in fact a question for you. Ashutosh.
Yeah, I have to respond to Sanjay Jha, what he said about the nationalization of Indian politics. I think I want to remind my friend that let's go back to 1971 when Mrs. Gandhi has nationalized Indian politics. And all the opposition were together. Mrs. Gandhi said, मैं तो गरीबी हटाना चाहती हूँ और ये लोग जो है मुझको हटाना चाहते हैं. And Mrs. Gandhi had a resounding victory. Look, in 1969, Mrs. Gandhi had gone against his own political party and defeated its own party and came out victorious. Same Mrs. Gandhi in 1975 was forced to impose emergency because she lost the mandate of the people. So when people of this country loses trust in a charismatic leader, it's not anybody's guess.
Okay.
I can understand Mr. Modi is a very popular leader. There is no doubt about it. He's equally popular as Mrs. Gandhi was. But if Mrs. Gandhi...
Okay, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, please. 10 seconds.
Choose her own...
I need to quickly come in, please.
Don't forget 75, Sanju Verma.
Okay. Padmaja, I just want to say one thing very categorically, and that is that please don't forget that corruption is always a big factor in any, election, be it municipal, assembly or Lok Sabha poll. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has an impeccable reputation personally. एक भी corruption का केस नहीं है उनके खिलाफ. I challenge you to say, have you seen a cleaner leader than Narendra Modi in the last 75 years in Indian polity? This is not rhetoric. I'm asking you, Ashutosh. Narendra Modi जैसा साफ सुथरा नेता आपने पिछले 75 सालों में देखा है क्या?
Okay, I'm going to end it at that because I think the point that Ashutosh was making earlier was there was also the 70s where Indira Ji went straight from being hailed as Durga to then somebody who was dictatorial and imposed the emergency and then was summarily removed by the people of the country as well. This is 2022. Many a slip between 2022 and 2024. At least that's what the opposition will be hoping. But what are the people telling us, the big takeaways of what we have found? These are the big takeaways of the Times Now PMark poll. NDA is set for a third term, going by what we see right now, at least according to the mood of the country right now. Prime Minister's individual popularity is beyond reproach. At least at present, he remains far ahead of everyone else. NDA in the lead despite COVID and the economic challenges that the government faces, UPA is only doing marginally better than it did in 2019. Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi still the chosen faces to lead the opposition. Reality check for regional parties as well. Mamata Banerjee, Arvind Kejriwal, Mr. K. Chandrasekhar Rao all have national ambitions. People not really buying into it right now, and 33% votes for Prime Minister challenge to be from the Congress. And finally, when it comes to the independence factor, the freedom of speech, how independent are we really? The people have said we're a free country, we value free speech, we enjoy free speech, there is no threat of a dictatorship or a Hindu Rashtra, and that's something we almost always must respect and be grateful for. And also remember that there are threats of radicalism which have struck not just in our country but far away in New York. That is something we should always acknowledge and keep resisting if we want to preserve our independence. Thanks very much, all gentlemen, Sanju Verma and Zeba Yasmeen for joining me. Thanks for watching.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
For decision makers, for the opinionated, for the unsure, for dinner time debaters, from metro stations to living rooms.
We present the facts and help India make a judgment. From stories that shake the nation to opinions that shape them. I delve deep into the biggest news of the day and uncover every fact, every source, and every statement through debate and discussion. Get a 360-degree perspective on every story and get a conclusive closure. Join me, Navika Kumar, on the News Hour at 9, only on Times Now.
To commemorate 75 years of Indian independence, PM Modi launched Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. And yes, the campaign is exactly what it sounds like. Under this, the centre aims to see the tricolour hoisted atop more than 20 crore houses across the country. The aim of the campaign is to motivate each and every citizen of the country to bring the Tiranga home and to hoist it to mark Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now, in order to make sure that Tiranga is within the reach of each and every citizen of this country, the centre had to make some amendments in the Flag Code 2002. Questioning the amendments, the Congress slammed the BJP and said that the amendments in the Flag Code were specially made to favour China. Later, Congress further alleged that centre is now trying to sell the national flag. But before we delve deeper into this, let's first have a look at the original Flag Code and the amendments made to it.